into your seats and get ready. It's time for the Mortarpod.
Hey, this is Alex Stevenson from SeemsGoodMagic.com. Welcome to this week's episode of the Mortarpod. It's an exciting episode. We have Morgan Wentworth returning, and also she's going to be our first video podcast guest. So pretty exciting stuff there. We talk about Dragon's Maze Pro Tour, which is actually currently going on as of today, finishing it up. We talk about the top 8 deck lists that were included in it, and we opened just a ton of Dragon's Maze boosters and sort of just go through what each of our opinions about the first picks are, second picks. So that's kind of exciting, see some of the picks that we get. And of course we finish it off with a draft at the end. So hope you enjoy this episode. I want to remind you, you can go email me at mortarpod@seemsgoodmagic.com, and I'll tell you about I'd be willing to answer any questions you have about the content on the website, what kind of draft material I'm doing, other material you'd like to see me do. Follow me on Twitter at SeemsGoodMagic. You can see when Jake and I are live streaming. If you follow us on Twitter, I usually indicate that. We have a sweet overlay now for our Twitch page, so I really like it a lot. It looks cool. VarenCamp.com, I want to remind you to go there. Scott Varenkamp designed SeemsGoodMagic.com. He did a great job, so I always go out of my way to sort of give him a little credit in the beginning of each podcast, and I really want people to go to his website and check it out, and that's VEHRENKAMP.com. Okay, with that, enjoy this episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Mortarpod. We have special guest Morgan Wentworth back again. She's been on the podcast before, but this is actually our first guest on the video podcast. So Morgan has contributed some content to SeemsGoodMagic.com, and she's been a part of our meta for a while. Well, before she went to college. But she was playing at the same store we did, and I don't know, I like her input, so thought it'd be cool to have her on today and talk to her about just Dragon's Maze and your experience with it. So, how much Dragon's Maze have you played so far?
I have done a couple of full block drafts on paper, and then a couple online. So I've seen it, I've played it, I've done a couple pre-releases with it, and I think I have a strategy figured out.
So what's your overall impression of it compared to like Gatecrash, Return to Ravnica? Do you like it as a final set in the block?
I think it was a really interesting way or a really interesting concept, like wrap up the block with an entirely new draft format after having 2 new draft formats for each set, and it really kept my interest in drafting for a while, and I like it, and I think it added a lot to the draft.
So what are some of the decks that you played? Or
I've done Simic with a red splash for explosive impact, and then I've played Air America.
Nice.
And,
we talked about that last time.
Yeah.
And then I played black, white, red control deck with Cryptghast and Boros Battlemaster, and that was pretty awesome.
Oh, Battle Shaper.
Yeah,
that guy is really good.
That guy's sweet.
Yeah.
And then last night I played a bad deck, but that one didn't really get recorded because my computer was acting up. So.
Well, it's been a while since you've given us a video, so we're hoping for some more, Morgan.
Yeah, well, it's really hard when the internet kind of sucks.
Yeah, but that'd be really frustrating.
Yeah.
Getting dumped out of your drafts.
Oh yeah, that would be really frustrating.
I think I've had that happen, but not for a long time.
Yeah,
so I think, Morgan, you're probably the only one that actually watched the Pro Tour Dragon's Maze. I was just looking over the top 8 deck list. Now, if people don't know, Pro Tour Dragon's Maze this year was a block constructed format, and I kind of like, my favorite kind of formats are the smaller card pool. And I don't know why. I think it just is like, I feel like the bigger the card pool, the more abuses you find, and then it almost like makes a more narrow format, because it's like someone finds that deadly combination of cards that's like obviously, superior to everything else in the format, and then you just find a bunch of people jumping on that bandwagon. And then what is in response to that? You find somebody that just creates a deck that's designed to beat the deck that everyone's playing. And I don't know, I never really liked that format. With a smaller card pool, you'd think you might run into that problem the same way, but for some reason I feel like you get a lot more diversity in the smaller. You get more people like metagaming it, more people brewing, stuff like that.
Well, this is also technically a lot newer format, just because it's Dragon's Maze, Gatecrash, and Return to Ravnica, which is like Dragon's Maze was just released on, like, for example, Magic Online, so it made grinding a lot harder, like they said in the interviews. And you're not going to see another format exactly like this in any other Pro Tour.
And why is that?
Because this is the only one that's going to have Return to Ravnica block in it, like exclusively.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's neat to have a big event like this, because a lot of the time Block Constructed doesn't get a lot of love, and this is a perfect time to do it because the block is complete.
Yeah.
So I like that, and as opposed to Legacy, it's a lot fresher, or like even Modern, it's just a lot newer, and it's very interesting to watch. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. What I really like about it is the fixing that we have, because if you remember the last Block Constructed, which would have been Innistrad Block Constructed, they still had Absent Restored in that Block Constructed format too, right? I felt like the fixing was garbage in that. Is that?
It was all the utility lands were the rare lands, and then you had one cycle of enemy color lands.
That's right. Okay. What were the utility lands again?
It was the activated ability, the dual color activated ability lands. There were 10 of them. It was Nephalia Drown Yard.
No. Oh, I see what you're talking about. Those utility lands. Yeah. So they're not even fixing. They're just, yeah.
Yeah.
And think about what you got in this. You have all the guild gates. You have all the shock lands.
Yes.
Yeah, and
so it's like
those utility lands also require the colored mana.
Yeah.
Reduced colorless.
So like
you don't want to run more than one or two.
Like you can do anything in this block, which is awesome. Which really I think would allow for some cool brewing. But let's briefly just look over what the top 8 deck lists were. So I can't pronounce this man's name, but it looks like Andreas Prost.
Yep.
And his deck is blue-white, and it looks really good. It looks insane, actually. It's Azorius Charm, Cyclonic Rift, Render Silent, which is a 4 of, impressively.
Yes.
Renounce the Guild, Sphinx's Revelation, Supreme
Cancel's
Verdict.
not better than that.
It is better than Cancel, I'll give you that. Syncopate, Jace Architect of Thought. I really like to see Aetherling showing up.
I like, the thing that I like about Block Constructed is that, and I'm sure the designers of the whole block or whatever, each set feel this way too, you get to see kind of the guilds played out too. It's not necessarily just what's the best deck. Like now people are actually going kind of into a guild strategy too.
Well, because, the cards work so well within their guild.
Yeah.
Like I've said for the last couple of months that I think Azorius Charm is the best charm available in Standard right now. It does exactly what blue-white wants. It like sets them back at creature. It sets them back at draw step.
Yeah.
It does everything that a blue-white control player wants to do. And I'd say it's better than Boros Charm, which might be second. Actually, Selesnya Charm's probably second, just because of sheer versatility. Destroying a big creature, being a combat trick, being a creature.
Potentially killing a small creature. Celestia Charm has a lot going for it.
And it's very important in this block format, because if you think about what kind of removal you have access to, it's a little bit more limited, So Selesnya Charm, extremely versatile, and I'm sure we're going to see it popping up in one of these top 8 lists.
Yeah. I'm really happy to see Aetherling in this deck.
Yeah,
That's sweet.
So I finally got a chance to see Aetherling played a little bit in Standard. I saw in our meta, we have a guy who's playing sort of a Bant, like fog deck.
Oh, goodness.
And it's very obnoxious. It's very obnoxious. And it's like, it's just, what's the name of the land that lets you, Alchemist Refuge?
Yeah.
So he's playing like Supreme Verdicts on your turn at a certain point, and it's really obnoxious.
That is obnoxious.
Yeah. and he beats you just with like Jace and Nephalia Drown Yard. Actually, I don't know how he makes Nephalia Drown Yard work. It's 4 color then. It's not even Bant. It's just 4 color. And
Snapcaster Fogs too, I think.
Yeah,
he's like actually doing the fog strategy too.
Yeah. So and it's like Urban Evolution on your turn too. So it's like, even though you can't play the
Yeah,
extra
can't
land.
play an extra
It's
land.
really funny. It's like,
Sphinx's Revelation doesn't get any love.
well, the whole deck is like at infinite mana. He always taps out like every turn. He always has maximum use for like his 12 mana. But Aetherling plays so well with that control strategy, and I think it just hasn't caught on in Standard yet because control is just not exactly in a prime position to be consistently good.
Yeah, all of these cards that just look great on paper, I just figure they're going to be better after rotation because
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I bet this deck did really well. I mean, if it was in top 8, it obviously did, but I don't know how it, I guess, Morgan, you were saying that these top 8 lists are going to be playing today.
Yes.
So we don't even know what the results are yet.
I think they just started.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, Aetherling, I saw it played in that deck. It's wonderful how good that card is. It's like a blocker, you blink it. It's also an attacker, you blink it.
yeah,
And it's
an
also
unblockable attacker that you blink out to defend with. On your,
defend. Yeah.
and then blink it out. You can also pump it on the butt to like survive big guys.
Maybe you make it unblockable, you attack, you blink it, you Supreme Verdict, it comes
Just-
back.
yeah.
It's like,
Like just with 6 mana, the things that you can do with those abilities on Aetherling are really crazy too.
and we've talked about how this is part of almost like a cycle of historic Magic cards.
Mhm.
There was Morphling and Torchling, and
They need to make a white and black one still, and then they'll.
the red one was like very unique in that it was in Planar Chaos where they were kind of, being out of color pie for each.
That one was, I think, more like a throwback to what would have happened if Morphling were red.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was trying to be that. And so the abilities mirror Morphling probably the best, but they're all cool. They all, as long as they have that +1/-1 ability on them, they're something ling still.
Oh, and if you don't know what Aetherling does, I guess we should have said this. Six mana, 4/5 shapeshifter. You can pay a blue, you can exile it and then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. You can pay a blue and make it unblockable, and then you can pay a colorless and give it +1/-1 or -1/+1 until end of turn. So, I mean, potentially for how much mana can you make it a 8/1 unblockable
Yep.
attacker? How much does that cost? Let's see. It would cost you 4/5 mana. You can make it an 8/1 unblockable.
And then blank it out to black foot next turn.
Yeah.
A lot of the
I guess
time-
that's 6 mana, but still, if you have the 6 mana to play it, you have the 6 mana to do that every turn.
A lot of the time, what you see is having Aetherling come down on turn 8 rather than turn 6 because
They
that
want to
way
be able to
Double
blink it
exile.
right away.
Yeah, they have a blink spell for a destroy card, and then a blink spell for another one just in case. So yeah, as long as you play smart with your Aetherling and don't waste it,
Yeah.
it's
Unless
probably
you're
gonna
in
end
dire
against-
straits, there's
Yeah.
not really a reason in control to play it on turn 6, especially in a deck where you've got 4 Supreme Verdicts. You know, like
And I mean, this deck also runs the Sphinx's Revelation, which has just been the funny thing about Sphinx's Revelation is when it first was dropped, when it first was released, it was like maybe a $5 to $7 card. I think what happened is people interpreted it to be almost identical to like Blue Sun Zenith.
yeah,
And if you remember Blue Sun Zenith, it was a pretty similar card, except you didn't get
it was
to.
good. You didn't run 4, you ran maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, you didn't gain the life like you do with Sphinx's Revelation, which is 2 blue and a white X instant. You gain X life and you draw X cards. Blue Sun Zenith was 3 blue X. You draw X cards, and then instead of putting it in your graveyard, you shuffle it back into your library.
You could target with
Yeah.
Blue Sun,
Yeah.
so that was the important thing.
Oh, you
But
could
it was
also get
a
your
kill
okay.
condition.
So that is a good difference too. So Sphinx's Revelation, you only hit yourself. I mean, you only can. It's not like you
You
really
can-
want your
yeah.
opponent to draw cards that often anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you're in a mill strategy, I could see that being relevant. But yeah, Sphinx's Revelation quickly for the control player was discovered to just be an absolutely insane card. A lot of times, the control players, they aren't even getting like the 4, like the 7. They're not even like making it X is 7 most of the time. Usually it's like they're drawing 3 cards and gaining 3 life, and it's amazing how much that sets.
It's a lot of value. So.
Yeah, insane amounts of value.
Mhm.
Just that 3 life can really make the total difference. And the problem, like the design problem almost that I see with Sphinx's Revelation is people tend to chain them. So what'll happen is like they'll do Sphinx's Revelation 4, draw another Sphinx's Revelation. It's like, okay, go again. Now Sphinx's Revelation 5 and gain
Yeah.
more life, draw more cards. Play it again. Now it's like 6. It gets insane, and the fact that this one, unlike Blue Sun Zenith, goes to your graveyard, and we have Snapcaster Mage in Standard right now. So then,
So even once you've exhausted all 4 from your deck,
yeah,
presumably, even 3, then you Snapcaster one of them back for the next turn for the initial amount, probably 5 or something.
Blue-White definitely has some obnoxious turn progressions they can do against the aggro player. Like, I went to States yesterday. I played against an Esper Control, and he Azorius Charmed me 4 turns in a row. It was Azorius Charm, 3 of them, the actual spell, and then the Snapcaster. It was insane. I mean, it's like four turns of setback, and that affects you even more when you're like flooded a little bit. I had to keep sort of a hand that was like a little too mana heavy. So, like, getting set back on 4 draws is just absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
So, Azorius Charm, Sphinx's Revelation, Aetherling. This deck looks very powerful. Blue-White looks like it's in a really good position. It's also got Jace in it, too, which is really good.
And just looking at this build, Blue-White, probably Blue-White-Black also, they both look really good post-rotation. You know, I'm thinking of Cavern of Souls and how it dramatically affects the effectiveness of this deck, you know. And that being gone makes this kind of deck good again.
It's pretty interesting that Renounce the Guilds is a 4 of in this build, and then you think, oh yeah, Return to Ravnica is like a multicolored block, so I bet 4 of main deck was paying off pretty hard for him. But why don't we find out? Let's look at these other lists, like what they're doing. All right, second top 8 list is Rob Castellan.
Castellan.
Okay.
Fun fact: he had the longest run of being undefeated. He went like 12 rounds undefeated in block and limited.
Wow, this is a pretty strange looking deck.
Is this a 4-color deck?
Okay.
So he's running, and it looks like a pretty, a fairly color intensive deck as well. But he's got Alms Beast, Angel of Serenity, Blood Baron of Vizkopa, Centaur Healer, Deadbridge Goliath, Gatecreeper Vine, Sin Collector, Sire of Insanity, Voice of Resurgence, Abrupt Decay, Deadbridge Chant. That's kind of cool and fun.
That is cool.
Devour Flesh, Golgari Charm, Selesnya Charm. So a lot of diversity in his spells. A lot of diverse mechanics.
The Deadbridge Chant helped to pull it all together for me.
Yeah, I actually just noticed the Deadbridge Chant. So if you don't know what Deadbridge Chant is, it's from Dragon's Maze. It's a 6-mana enchantment, a mythic. When it enters the battlefield, you put the top 10 cards of your library into your graveyard, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, you choose a card at random from your graveyard, and if it's a creature card, you put it on the battlefield, and if it's anything else, you just put it in your hand. Cool card. I haven't played it. Have any of you like played against it? I haven't gotten a chance.
So sweet.
I know it looks like a really fun card, but I haven't played against it, and I haven't played with it, so I don't really know.
I have a friend who plays it in Jund, and he plays it so that he can get extra value out of Sire of Insanity, for example, which Rob is actually playing. So, and it's pretty good to gain that card advantage when Sire of Insanity's out and when it's not out, because it's like you're drawing 2 cards no matter what. And you might even get a creature for free.
He's playing Maze's End in the sideboard.
Yes.
That's interesting you bring that up. So Maze's End is the new mythic from Dragon's Maze.
You can't even win off of it.
I think it was the first spoiler, I believe, from Dragon's Maze. I'm pretty sure it was. But it enters the battlefield tapped. It taps for a colorless, and you pay 3, and you return it to its owner's hand, and you search your library for a gate card and put it onto the battlefield. Believe it or not, I don't think this was a joke. But they said that Channel Fireball people were playing it like it was a Thawing Glaciers, like it's the standard Thawing Glaciers. And it's really funny to hear that. I know it's obviously not as good, but it's cool.
Maybe after rotation, and in black, it's much better, I feel like, for sure. I don't know that I would play more than
How many gates does he have?
1?
All right, he's got
He has
1,
6.
2,
He has 6,
3.
yeah.
That's pretty good. So obviously he's not playing it to win. He's playing it as oh, we're going long game. I might need some fixing.
Well, and he has a bunch of mana sinks, I think, especially out of the sideboard.
What are his? It's also deck thinning
He just
too.
has like tons of
he's
stuff to spend mana on.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, look how color intensive this guy
And
is.
with Deadbridge Chant, recurring things, so giving you more stuff to use mana for.
I mean, the Deadbridge is the Goliath. Really feels like the
out of sideboard. He's playing Gaze of Granite too.
I feel like the Deadbridge Goliath feels really out of place here because it's double green, and if you look at everything else, it's like black-white spells. I mean, there is a little bit of green, but
he's like Mr. 4-drop go to town.
Yeah, he is. It's really funny that this was how he designed his deck. It's not intuitive in any sense for this block. in terms of like guild synergies and stuff like that.
I'm surprised Obsidat's aid didn't make it in here at all.
Or how about just Obsidat?
Yeah.
Like he's playing Ohms Beast instead of Obsidat just for the 4-drop.
I think Blood Baron of Vizkopa is the Obsidat replacement just because it's less color intensive.
Yeah.
And the thought behind this deck was Siren of Insanity is really good in this format, Voice of Resurgence is really good, let's play both of them.
But it's kind of funny that Ohms Beast and Blood Baron are like anti-synergies with each other, but only in terms of getting him into a 10-10 flyer or whatever.
Yeah, I could see how Voice also is really important in this block.
I think we're going to see Voice a lot. I saw it quite a bit yesterday in Standard, back to Standard a little bit. The Bant Hexproof deck, if you haven't played against it yet in Standard, obnoxious and good. Like, I'm playing Naya Blitz, which is the entire point of the deck is you deal 20 damage by turn 4. You just keep those insane hands, put out like 4 creatures by turn 3, and then just find an opportunity to swing in before they've built up before they have any chance to mount a defense. You're getting in enough damage where you can burn them out with Searing Spears and Boros Charms. But I do have to say, like, I feel like Naya Blitz is probably one of the few decks that can go over top of Bant Hexproof, because Bant Hexproof is extremely good. They run 16 auras, I think, or something insane like that. They do Rancor, Ethereal Armor, Unflinching Courage, and Spectral Flight, and then their creatures that they kill you with are... Fencing Ace is kind of the funny one that's kind of the new inclusion. And actually, I just sold like all my Fencing Aces, so I know that that card's really catching on in that deck. But also Invisible Stalker, Geist of St. Traft, you have the actual hexproof creatures. And I mean, if you, like, think about Invisible Stalker with Ethereal Armor and Rancor or an Unflinching Courage. If you don't have an out to that, it's almost impossible to race that once they've gotten to a certain point. So that deck is very popular right now in Standard, and actually it's what brought Bruce McAllister and Dustin, how do you even pronounce Dustin's last name? All this time. Lucier? All this time, and I've always wanted to be like Luce or something, like it's French. It is French, right?
I think well, I know it's French. I just don't know if it's
how that
Cajun French or if it's...
Yeah, it's probably Cajun. But anyway, they both made top 8, and they're from our store, and they were both playing Bant Hexproof, and I have to say, I was watching their game. There are some absolutely like broken plays that deck does. And I got to play it one round, and a guy literally beat me game 2. I ended up beating him in the match, which I was really happy about, thanks to some just nutty draws. But game 2, he plays a first turn Pilgrim, a second turn Spectral Flight Ethereal Armor. So he had to use his own, it was really kind of a weird play. It was like, use his own Pilgrim to ramp to make it a 4/4. Or would it have been a 5/5? Actually, I have to think about that. 3/3.
Yeah,
no, it would have been a 5/5. So it was a 5/5 on turn 2 to keep it out of my Searing Spear range. And I'm like, well, I could still probably race this. Next turn, Ethereal Armor Rancor. And it was like, by the end, it was a 13/13 flying, trampling, first striking. It was like everything. And there was absolutely no possible way. He killed me with an Avacyn's Pilgrim on turn 4 by itself, just with a bunch of auras. So that deck is extremely explosive. It's definitely like put all your eggs in one basket, but a lot of times when your basket is hexproof, it's pretty safe.
And unfortunately, like, the Destroy All Enchantments effect is 3 mana sorcery speed right now.
Paraselene or whatever?
Yeah,
is that what it is?
Selene.
That is how you pronounce it.
Isn't it Paraselene?
From what I read, it's Paraselene.
That's weird.
But,
we'll just agree to disagree.
Okay. I've never even heard that word before, so we can look it up. I'm actually curious if that's a real word.
I think Selene is the word.
Paraselene! I'm right, who's right, who's wrong?
Whatever. What is it?
A bright moon-like spot on a lunar halo.
Oh.
Wow. God, they dig deep on these card names.
What do you think of Paraselene? I don't know. It sounds stupid. Let's use it.
But anyway, that card's not seeing any play. I did Ray of Revelation, and I did War Priest of Thune. I was really happy. Yesterday I got to play War Priest of Thune once, and my opponent was like, But War Priest is 1 and a white from core set. When it enters, you may destroy target enchantment. But the entire reason I'm playing it is it's a human, so it interacts with Mayor of Averbrook and Hamlet Captain in the deck, as well as becomes a Rancor target too.
Mm-hmm.
But Ray is a very good defense against that deck too. You can at least get rid of a couple of their auras. It should be noted, though, you really can't deal with Rancor ever against that deck, you know? Not on the Hexproof first. So back to this deck. Very strange still. Did you, like you said, you saw it play a little bit?
Yeah.
And what did you think? What kind of, like, turn progressions was he doing?
It was kind of crazy. Like, sometimes you didn't see how it could work against the more consistent decks with, like, color-wise, but Gatecreeper Revive does a lot of work for this deck. So you'd see it not necessarily ramp, but you'd see it fix his mana really well. And like I said, the Deadbridge Chant into Sire of Insanity play, it was just crazy.
I feel like Sin Collector is really good for this deck too.
And in block in general, I feel like it's very good. Even standard, it's already made an appearance.
Wants to play Charms.
The Reanimator deck in standard constructed right now is absolutely slamming Sin Collector. Maybe not main deck, but absolutely sideboard.
I've had it played against me with the deck I'm playing right now, and it was funny because both times that he played it, it was like nothing. He got nothing off of me. It's like, well, you can see my Snapcaster Mage and my Izzet.
So we got a harder to cast Goblin Piker.
Yeah, exactly. Very hard to cast Goblin Piker. No, it was a free reveal of my hand. He got to
so it's like a Goblin Piker plus Peak.
Yeah.
Kinda cool. But yeah, it's pretty amazing that this only runs 24 lands, considering he's 3-color and color intensive. So I'm pretty impressed that this deck did as well as it did.
I think the 4 Gatecreeper Vines really helps him to play that.
I agree. And Voice of Resurgence, so this is the new card. Jake and I talked about it on previous podcasts, just thinking it's overhyped. I finally got a chance to play against it. It's a very good card.
It is good.
I can't deny this card. I don't agree with its 30
I don't
plus,
agree with that price tag.
It's $30+ price tag at the moment. But it is a very, very strong card. I played against it a little bit yesterday, and the argument against it would be, oh, it's so easy to kill, though. You just pillar it. Everybody's playing pillar anyway. What does it matter?
Yeah, but post-rotation, that's not...
Well, that's not even true. It's like, Voice in that Hexproof deck is insane. They want to play it, and what are you going to do? Okay, I play a Rancor on it in my turn. Are you going to respond to it on my turn? Okay, no problem. I get a token for you targeting it on my turn. I get a token for you killing it on my turn. You know, it's like
Azorius Charm is fine against it.
It punishes them hard for you playing auras. So like what would have formerly been a 2-for-1, you know, putting an aura on your creature on your turn has turned into you get 2 creatures out of the deal if they kill it. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, this does work really well in Ban Hexproof for sure.
So expect to see that deck a lot more in the next few months, I would think. Prepare your sideboards for that. Voice from the new set, I do like it quite a bit. I underrated it. I did underrate it. I'll admit it. I didn't quite realize how the ability worked because I was talking to Jake about this. I'm always like confused when it's cards that generate tokens that have power and toughness equal to the number of creatures you control. For some reason, I feel like when it generates it, that's what its power and toughness is, how many creatures you currently control. But this creates a token that's constantly fluctuating up and down, up and down. So
kind of like having a creature with ooze, whatever that one. What is that one?
Gutter Grime. Yeah, that's a great example because the Gutter Grime enchantment is what's getting the actual counters on it, but it's also determining what the tokens.
It determines the power and toughness of tokens generated by it.
So wait, what would happen if the Gutter Grime is destroyed when you have all the ooze?
They'd be 0/0s and die.
Oh wow! I don't think that's ever actually happened when I played a Gutter Grime.
Maybe people don't realize that.
Yeah, I never realized that. That's pretty strange. But what are some other creatures or cards like Gutter Grime and Voice of Resurgence that have a similar ability? This is an old sort of. I mean, you have cards like Crusader of Odric from Corset that is also.
You want that? Like
just
Scion of the Wild?
Yeah, that's like a really old one.
And V2 Gutsy. What is the
Wayfaring Temple?
Wayfaring Temple.
That's like the new one. That's or Return to Ravnica one. That's good. So Geist-Honored Monk. So they do that ability quite a bit.
They had it in red originally with Keldon Warlord too.
That's actually hilarious. So historically, it feels like it doesn't even fit in place. Sorry, my cat's being obnoxious.
Just didn't want to let it go either.
That's funny. Okay, let's. Wouldn't let it take a first.
Is Ready and Willing instant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Look at them. That's nice of them to do sideways view for us.
Yeah, they always do it the other way.
Yeah.
It's hard to read. But so Ready Willing is a card from Dragon's Maze that's like a Rootborn Defenses plus a what's Vault of the Archangel on the other
Yeah.
side. Pretty interesting card.
It's a great mashup. I love it. Vitalize Rootborn Defenses plus Vault.
Yeah. And it's reasonably costed. It's in junk colors, which is popular and limited anyway.
And the colors that produce the most tokens too, so
And it happened to be everything he was in.
nice. Nice.
So it's
A
a
lot of
cool
stuff
it's a cool
is.
look it's a cool looking list.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see how this plays.
Not much out of reach for this guy.
This looks like a deck that's not intuitive at all, so it's very like you came in with a game plan and you know how this deck plays. You know, some decks like
Yeah,
the
I imagine that playing against his threats is very difficult because you're like, oh,
they're all really
which one?
they're all
Like,
efficiently costed beaters. Alms Beast, Dead Bridge Goliath, they all have power and toughness ratios
he's like,
better than
he's
their
like
cast
junk
number.
stomping almost,
Yeah.
like just blah.
And Blood Baron too. We've talked about how cool this card is because of how important its protections are. It basically has protection from Azorius Charm, Boros Reckoner, Restoration Angel, the Tension
In
Sphere,
block
Oblivion
constructed,
Ring.
I imagine this thing is very difficult
Yeah.
to remove.
Like the spells that it has protection against are all heavily played and relevant. So it gets by everything.
There's Renounce the Guilds and Devour Flesh that will both kill it though.
There's more than there's
Yeah,
more
yeah.
than that too. Yeah, you have mortars too, but I mean that's not a ton. There are outs for it. And there's outs for everything. I mean Supreme Verdict does it too. Yeah,
Merciless Eviction.
but that still isn't going to negate the fact that it's got super relevant protections.
Yeah.
The pithing needle in the sideboard is pretty important too because it's any non-basic land card.
Any
card.
It's unless they're mana abilities.
Oh,
So you
yeah,
can
so
even name lands and stop their activity
It
abilities.
names Maze's End and Aetherling, which are both like huge win conditions.
Naming Aetherling would be really good.
Yeah, especially if that's like the one kill. Did they have any other kill cons? And it looked like
No.
Aetherling was.
He could Jace steal something from your deck potentially.
That would work
Yeah.
against this guy. But yeah, so you're right. In that instance, Pithing Needle would be a nice way to stop that obnoxious blinking late game with the unblockable ability. Craig Wesco is the next list. He's pretty old school player. He always does like a white weenie deck of some sort. And this time around, it's green-white, looks like. And it's Dryad Militant, Experiment 1, Judge's Familiar, Loxodon Smiter, Voice of Resurgence.
Militant, it's really interesting.
Does the ability do anything, or are we just talking about an Elite Vanguard here? I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Oh, I'm sure that's what it is.
It's an Elite Vanguard.
Yeah, so I don't think that there is actually instant or sorceries that are relevant in Graveyard in full block. Like, why? There might be
actually
one I can't think of.
Helps
now.
the guy with the Dead Bridge chant.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, thank God, I don't have to worry about getting any of those back. I'll just always get a big fat creature back.
Is that right? Oh, yeah, you're right. That's interesting.
I mean, or a land, I guess, off the mill. Who knows?
That's actually, you could play Dryad Militant if you were playing Dead Bridge Chant to control your graveyard to only be creatures too. But I guess it would be creatures and lands.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that wouldn't work as well. But Judge's Familiar is interesting. It's cool to see that. I got a little promo one right here. So that's
I
pretty
like
cool.
his wing armor that he has.
In this picture?
No, in the promo picture.
I didn't even notice. Nice. I like his helmet.
Yeah. You know, he got the bird helmet on.
He's got a helmet in this picture too, though. I think. Oh, he does. That's cool. But so this deck looks cool. It looks pretty. I'm curious about the Glaring Spotlight. I guess it's just like a way to make unblockable.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, the hexproof is good too, because then at least you have a way around Azorius Charm or something.
Yeah, but that's what you're talking about. I thought you were talking about
For the
getting
hex.
rid of their hexproof, and I'm like, it doesn't really seem relevant for green.
Oh no, not for that. Just for protecting
Yeah.
your creatures against spells. That
I do
Azorius
like
Charm and
the
burn.
4 of Rootborn Defenses plus 4 of Call of the Conclave and Advent of the Worm.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Celestia Charm. So he's got 12 token producing instants and sorceries.
Plus Voice of
Yeah,
Resurgence.
plus Voice of Resurgence.
so he has actually just a ton. And what also is
And
cool
Voice
is
a great counter with Rootborn Defenses on your turn after the trigger has resolved if they try and remove it.
he's got an excellent turn progression. If you look at the 12 1-drops, he's got the evasive 1-drop. He has the 1-drop that grows with Experiment 1 and just the efficiently costed one, all of which work well with his main deck Civic Saber, which I do like. It's funny that you see this be unlimited, because we used to just slam the Civic Saber and sort of make that deck sometimes, where it was like, let's just pick up Vassal Souls and Judge's Familiars. But this one actually can capitalize with Dryad Militants, Judge's Familiars.
Voice.
Yeah, that's a multicolor one too. That's true.
Well, Accident Spiders having a Crawworth on turn 4.
It's pretty cool.
I don't really know about Experiment 1, I guess.
It works.
Cool.
It works well with the Call.
Oh,
It works
okay,
well
yeah.
with the Dryad
I forget about
Militant.
all those
Yeah, so all the token
instances,
producers
yeah.
is where it works well.
Judge's Familiar is really good too, because that's like slow you down for one more turn against that blue-white control deck that's running a million counter spells and stuff.
Wait, which one? Judge's
Judge's
Familiar?
Familiar.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Slow that down. And even like making their Sphinx's Revelation one more expensive. Sometimes that one extra card in life can make a big difference. You're at least gonna make them, so it's like, ugh, all right. And then the nice thing is about Judge's Familiar, you just pretty much keep them off of that. You don't even have to sack your Judge's Familiar. They're just actively gonna keep that 1 mana on tap. So it's like it's always keeping them like a turn behind almost.
And V2 Guildmage out of the board, I would assume, is also for control matchups.
I guess it would should be noted Judge's Familiar doesn't do anything against Supreme Verdict in terms of slowing it down.
No, but the Guildmage out of the board would really help that, because then you have one creature that is like its own army.
So you don't have to commit as much. That's a
Yeah.
good point.
You could play.
But he's
Turn
got the
Celestia
root. He's got the
Charm.
Rootborn too.
Yeah,
so he
that's
already
true,
has
yeah.
the main deck out to Supreme Verdict.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting deck. Craig Wesco usually does pretty well with his white beanie strategy. He really can't get away from it. He's done it for years and years. I know that he got top 8 in Worlds with a list pretty similar to this, losing to Conley Woods when Conley was playing. When Channel Fireball swept Worlds with not Affinity. Why can't I think of it? The Tempered Steel. They were playing Tempered Steel at that time, and that was the one where they just were sniping everybody. Like, I swear, 3 or 4 Channel Fireball guys got into top 8, all running Tempered Steel list. They were just dominating all day. If you haven't seen that match, I would definitely recommend watching Craig Wesco, Conley Woods, top 8 at Worlds. Incredible match. Like, there was a point where it looked like Craig Wesco could not lose, and somehow Conley turned it around. It was unbelievable. Like, Rich Hagan and Brian David Marshall always do the commentating, and I remember Brian David Marshall's like, because he was talking to a live studio audience, and there was a turn where he goes, "How many of you think that Craig Wesco is going to win here?" And everyone raised their hand, and then all of a sudden, Conley took one turn, and then VDM goes, "Okay, now how many do you think Craig Wesco's going to win?" And no one raised their hand. It was like one turn had just completely flipped the entire board. Yeah, it was really impressive. Okay, next list is I'm never gonna pronounce this name. Mete Zatakai. Okay. Country of origin?
Somewhere.
Czechoslovakia or something crazy like that. I don't know.
Somewhere in Europe.
Okay.
Yeah, Eastern Europe.
All right. So here's another. It looks like an Esper control list. So it's Sin Collector, Blood Baron, Aetherling. This guy actually has a few more finishers than the other list, the other blue-white list. Other than that, it's pretty similar. So we don't need to go too in depth on this list.
Yeah.
He's got some good.
He's playing Far and Away, which is, in my opinion, one of the best removal spells available.
Yeah, I would say
control.
I would say second only to Turn and Burn right now.
And I'm actually not even sure about that. I really do like Turn and Burn right now. I think it's very, very good. I think that Far and Away does a better job of clearing the board than Turn and Burn does on its own. Turn and Burn, though, with support, is a really good card. So if you have somebody that can ping, Turn and Burn is amazing. If you're playing Turn and Burn with Snapcaster Mage, then Turn and Burn is really good too. And Far and Away isn't necessarily as good.
Yesterday, Jake and I briefly talked about what would happen to this. This question was raised to me yesterday, and I brought it up to Jake, and we had to discuss it and actually look at the comprehensive rules to figure out what would happen.
Questions like that.
Yeah, never a pleasant experience. Actually, it's cool.
It's actually really
well. The comprehensive rules are absolutely insane. If you've never gone to them, it's like thousands of pages of written material.
Don't make the mistake on doing this on a Windows 97 computer.
God, whoever is responsible. The people who contributed to that are incredibly patient people, because that is a lot of text, a lot of
Well,
stipulations.
every
they had
year
to
they
talk
add
about.
more rules, and
More mechanics that need
in
to be
particular,
discussed.
like Soulbound had.
This is the one that we're talking
yeah,
about too, with
it
turn and
had
burn.
things that they needed to already make calls for, but I think we'd come up with the right answer before we even looked it up too, or
Yeah,
it
actually,
had at least been suggested.
Jake's initial impression was correct, but then he like second guessed himself and he really didn't know, and I didn't know either. So what happens is the question we posed was, if you have a soul bond creature and it's soul bonded to another creature, and then you turn the creature with soul bond, are the creatures still soul bonded? And after looking it up, it turns out there's only 3 things that
Change.
change
Stop making creatures bonded.
and the only way that stops creatures from being bonded is. Can you grab me a water while you're in there? Do you want a water too?
Sure.
Okay. The only thing that keeps a creature from being soul bonded is if one of the soul bonded creatures becomes under your opponent's control. Do you remember the other 2, Jake? I just want to make sure I say them. If one of them leaves the battlefield,
Or stops being a creature.
and if one of them stops being a creature. So those are the only 3 stipulations. So in that sense, turn does not, even though it loses all abilities, the creatures remain soul bonded. So if you ever come across that situation, now you know the answer.
Yeah.
The more you know. The more you know. So we don't need to go over this list anymore. And I would like to kind of jam through these a little bit because we have a bunch of packs we want to open. I wanted to talk about the new M14 spoilers with you guys too, because they're pretty exciting looking. We're going to see the return of Slivers. Okay, so this next list is Dustin Ochoa, and he appears to be running another Esper control list. This one using Obsidian and Angel of Serenity, which are good late game plans, I will say. So a lot of Esper, a lot of blue-white. Looks like Azorius is pretty popular with everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's identified
People
that
aren't
Azorius
playing the control package that what's his name was, the first guy, where with all of the counter spells. I mean, like they're not doing it to the extent that he was. They're playing 4 syncopate, and then removing it once they hit the battlefield.
So wait, what were the other ones doing?
They're not removing it with counter spells. He was almost all counter spells and then 4 Supremes and Azorius Charms.
Yeah, you're right. He's doing this sort of render
I guess
silent.
he's got Renounce the Guilds. But out of his board, he was even playing more counter spells.
So okay.
Riley, where's your purse?
So pretty similar list. Here, this is actually a unique list. Josh Shutterlayton, I recognize him. He was another one of the Channel Fireball guys that top 8'd with the Tempered Steel list during Worlds. Really superb player, and cool to see this list because it's most similar to what I'm playing in Standard right now. It's sort of it's almost mono red, but it's got the white, so it's a Boros list, and it's Burning Tree Emissary, Fire Fist Striker, Founder Street Denizen, Frontline Medic, Gorehouse Chainwalker, Legion Loyalist, Rakdos Cackler, Boros Charm, Legion's Initiative, and Mizium Mortars. Looks like a very fast, powerful looking list. It looks like a lot of fun to play too. Interesting that he's sideboarding Vyashno First Blade. I don't know why you wouldn't just want to main deck it, and where that would be better. Maybe it's better against the control lists because they're like, oh, Supreme Verdict, and then you're like, okay, get in for 4. Yeah. So I could see that.
You'd probably take out your mortars and put those guys in against control.
Actually, I could see where the First Blade's weak. The First Blade would be weak against that list, like the Deadbridge Goliath Alms Beast list that we saw, because it looks like you would have a hard time getting in with the First Blade, and then you're just playing it over
Well,
cost.
and that guy was playing Centaur Healer, so you attack with First Blade, really deal him 1 damage, and then you can't attack into his healer anymore.
Yeah, true. So I guess it makes a little more sense why he would have that sideboard now.
Yeah.
But he's also running Legion's Initiative, which I haven't seen in Standard yet. Have you guys played with it, played against it yet?
It's really good.
Its ability is cool, and it was very hyped at the beginning of its spoiler, when it was first spoiled, but...
I think people are kind of turned off by its one-use blink.
Yeah.
And,
it should have blinked out with your guys, or what?
That would have been way too good, I think.
Yeah.
But, it is really cool, especially in an almost, like, mono Boros deck, with the First Blades, with Skynet Legionnaires, with... like even Fire Main Avenger, I've seen it played, and it's really neat. But I guess it's just not good enough for standard right
Well, we thought its pump effects are a little bit narrow, actually. It would have been cool if it was just red creatures you control, red and white creatures you control get
Yeah.
+1/+1.
Yeah.
That would have been a lot nicer. It feels a little bit too, I
It's
don't know.
It's
I mean, for
unfortunate
this guy's
for, like,
deck,
how they made it work, I guess.
in
Because
what,
you
yeah,
have to be playing
almost.
only Boros
Yeah.
creatures.
And what does Boros want to do? They want to get in more damage. So
Yeah.
the defensive aspect with the white creatures is almost like, it's not irrelevant, but it's just not what that plan, it doesn't lend itself to the Boros strategy.
Is there a Boros 1-drop that's hybrid?
now. No.
What's the
Not
common
in this
Boros
list.
card?
The common Boros card?
Boros hybrid card.
Let me
Skynet Legion,
No.
isn't it?
No.
Wojak Halberdiers?
No, hybrid.
Oh,
Like,
hybrid. There must be one.
Good.
Oops.
I don't know.
Take this. I don't know.
So, anyway, this list looks like the first real aggressive list that we've seen. Burning Tree Emissary. Have you played against this or played with it at all? You can do some broken things with
Burning Tree Emissary into the Big Pig is.
Wait, which
pretty
one's the
cool.
big pig?
The doodad that gets bigger when you have a mountain.
Oh, the Flintriff board. Yeah. So red green aggro really likes Burning Tree. This block list really likes it because it's got Fire Fist Striker, which is also an excellent thing to Burning Tree into. Fire Fist Striker, kind of an important aspect of our card in block. Definitely, I saw it pop up in some red deck wins lists in standard as well. Getting rid of a blocker is important, and if you're already attacking with a bunch of creatures, it can be really good. Legion Loyalist, also very cool
Okay.
in an environment with a bunch of tokens like Advent to the Worm and Call to Conflict and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this list looks like a lot of fun, really strong. I mean, it should be noted, every single one of his creatures does benefit from the Legion's initiative, sans frontline medic, which is already doing a ton of work for him anyway, allowing him to attack in and not
Medic's
have to
still a 3/3
and not have to worry about his creatures dying. Also, in this small card set where you're going to have a lot of Sphinx's Revelations you want to deal with, frontline medic I could see being a lot better. So cool looking list. This looks like the kind of list that I would probably play in block. It just sort of more my play style. Really interesting. I'm trying to think why he's getting
Burning Tree.
Yeah, Burning Tree.
Oh, okay. So the Temple Garden is actually a really interesting choice, just so he can.
It is really interesting since it
allows him to play Boros.
Yeah, and he doesn't, and he does not have to play Boros Guildgate with that.
And he's not, and it also allows him to play frontline medic. It's not super color intensive deck, so playing 4 Temple Gardens doesn't really disrupt his mana base that much. Interesting though, very interesting. Andrew Shrout, we've seen this guy before too. I'm trying to think where I last saw him. Last I saw what he was playing, it was a white weenie list. It was that list. Do you remember the one where it was like the War Falcons and the Knight of Glories? It was like just really cheap white creatures, and then I forget. I think he raced you down. Stacy was playing something in our meta, was playing something similar for a while. In fact, the list that he took #1 states with last year was a pretty similar list.
Oh, okay.
But it looks like in this
right,
list he's sort of opted into a strange looking America like shell. He's using Aetherling as a finisher, but in addition he's got Assemble the Legion and
he's playing Renounce the Guilds.
He's also got Turn and
I
Burn.
feel like
so
Renounce the Guilds is not as risky as I thought because of Assemble the Legion.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
I didn't.
But you get a token and then just sack it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right, because otherwise you'd have to sack your Assemble, so that doesn't seem very...
Yeah, it could be really good against you if a control player has Renounce the Guilds in their deck.
Now, do you think Counterflux is a good card for this environment?
I think it's just
as pretty much a better than cancel.
No, it's the same thing as Render Silent for the most part. I don't know how often you play more than one spell in a turn with Render Silent. Anyway, I guess.
And I don't know how often you would have an opponent that would have access to multiple counter spells in a turn, but maybe it comes up every once in a while.
Well, if they're counting on you having like cancels and so they peg to spells, then Counterflux is good. But if they just have 2 syncopates or something, they can just counter twice.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
so
definitely.
Counterflux is just more color intensive than cancel. That's my conclusion in this deck.
That's true. And he's 3-color, so he might have a harder time casting it. I guess he just was like, I don't want to run cancel. I think is really what it boiled down to.
Yeah, I don't mind Counterflux. I think you're right. It is. He's running Godless Shrine, and it's like, you know, like.
Have you played?
Why?
You've played Counterflux in Standard. So what do you think of it?
It's fine. I play it as a 1-of in my deck.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
You really.
But I'm playing it
Yeah.
next to Dissipate as a 1-of, next to Syncopate as a 1-of. I'm not doing them like. I'm doing it so that Slaughter Games isn't like, oh, get all your counter.
Yeah,
like,
well,
I'm just playing a few.
I mean, if they're naming counter, they're probably not even using Slaughter Games correctly anyway. But,
yeah.
but I mean, you're right. You've always kind of been like, you like your diversity in your cards because you want to sort of. It's always good to do that early because you want to evaluate how good a counterspell is in a meta. So but a lot of times you find yourself with a lot of 1-ofs, right? I mean, in your deck list,
like 2 1-of, especially when I'm doing control, because it makes them not be able to anticipate exactly the answer that you're going to use, and that's helpful too.
And it leaves you more options.
Yeah.
Next list, we have looks like a Japanese fellow, Makihito Mihara.
Yeah.
So his list is also looks like Esper Control, resoundingly the most popular deck. At least in terms of what was successful at this tournament. Precinct Captain, pretty interesting.
A lot of the other control decks actually had it in the sideboard.
So his plan was face a lot of other control decks? Or
Precinct Captain comes in against aggro a lot of the time.
Because
of the first strike, yeah. If you're gonna, like, be developing your board for 4 turns, aggro's gonna walk all over you. So Precinct Captain is really helpful, as well as against other control decks. He can, like, make a whole bunch of creatures before they have the chance to Supreme Verdict and get in there.
That's pretty interesting.
He opted for Psychic Strike as his 3-mana counterspell. So
that's funny. He just
Render Silent, Counterflux, and Psychic Strike. We've seen everything but cancel.
That's really strange. I guess he was just hoping to. What would you hope to hit with Psychic Strike?
The 1-of Guildgate in the Maze's End deck.
Or just like, maybe keep him off a color.
There could just be relevant things you can hit.
It's kind of
Psychic
funny.
Strike can sometimes be a 3-for-1 if it gets rid of 2 more legitimate threats.
Yeah. That is pretty strange that he opted for that over both. Well, I mean, he didn't have to play cancel, but over the Render Silent. And over...
I actually do feel like Psychic Strike has more of an impact on the game than Render Silent or Counterflux do.
Additionally, it's not double blue, so if you want to keep blue up for Aetherling, then you're pretty good. It's not even triple colored mana, and he has 2 more Psychic Strikes out of the board, so that must have worked okay for him. I'm not opposed to it. I think that in Standard it's not a good card necessarily because of Snapcaster Mage and Reanimator, but in Black Constructed, for sure. Like, anything that keeps you more open color-wise.
It's also cool to see Night Veil Spectre coming in out of the sideboard.
I think that card's great.
Are we thinking it must be control again?
Oh yeah, it's probably really great.
Where you'd want to bring it in? I don't know where else.
Do you exile the cards face up with him?
You may play that player exiles the top card of his or library. Yep. It would have to say specifically face down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's face up.
Okay. Well, that's the top 8 list. If there's anything we learned, it looks like Esper and Blue-White are the most popular, at least the most successful decks in Block at the moment, which is sad for people like me, but exciting for people.
People are sad that they haven't been able to play Control since Cavern came out. So.
Exciting for people like Jake.
Yes, very exciting.
I love Control lists, so that's kind of cool. And Jake and I talked about maybe sleeving up some Block.
I would love to play Block Constructed.
It'd be cool to talk to our meta about it. Yeah. We don't necessarily need to set up a day where we can do tourneys, just sort of like talk and practice with it.
I wouldn't even mind just like, we've done it before where people are just create your own Block Constructed, but not that. Create a Return to Ravnica Block Constructed deck.
Unfortunately, we didn't get enough turnout when we actually like assigned a day to something like that, or assigned a day to something like Modern.
It's hard for assigning 1 extra day because there's already 3 days that people come in.
It's not cost effective. Think about it. Most of these people are hobby players. They have their $500 standard constructed deck, and they don't have the extra $500 to do a Modern list. They don't have, but that argument shouldn't be made for Block. I feel like if they have the 500 standard
if you're
list,
playing standard, you can play Block.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll have to talk to our meta about that, see if we can get some more dudes interested in doing it. But all right, that's the top 8 lists. Now we're gonna do something pretty exciting. We're gonna crack some packs live here, and
Puzzler.
we just got a ton of them too. So we're gonna talk about what we would first pick out of this in a draft, and all the notable cards in here. So what we did last week is if we open a bomb rare and it's obvious that you would first pick that, we'll just say what we would second pick as well. So actually, Morgan, you want to do the honors, the first one?
Sure. So I got.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Okay, so
These are the rares.
so let's. I'll just take these. So
These
we've
are
got
the rare.
we've got a Plasm Capture, which is kind of the new mana drain.
I like this card.
And that was another counterspell that rug that obnoxious rug fog deck was playing. And the funniest play I saw against Jund, he played Plasm Capture against a 14 converted mana cost Bonfire.
Oh goodness.
And I was like, oh, thank you. I'll take that 14
Yeah.
mana.
And it's any combination too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, he didn't even want to think about it too long. He was like, I'll add 14 white, I guess. The other one, we got a foil rare out of here. So foil Renegade
welcome.
Crisis. Thank
That
you.
was amazing.
That was good luck. So what are some of the other notable cards that you would say, Morgan, for limited?
Yasho, First Blade is pretty good. So really Gatekeepers, if you're going with, I played against like a 4-color deck, and it's really Gatekeepers really ate my cheese, because it was it was 7 life, and now you're right back to the beginning.
So here's the Cerulean Gatekeeper. Let's show you the rares too, real quick. Renegade Crisis is a pretty. Oh, that's weird. Oh, there it is. Is a pretty cool card. Renegade Crisis is a 3 mana 3/2 Beast Mutant with Evolve, and whenever Renegade Crisis evolves, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. One of like 2 cards from the set from Dragon's Maze that have Evolve, right? It's that and Battering Crisis. There must be one more. I can't think of it right now. That might be it. That really might be it.
I feel like there was one other thing, but I can't remember what it was. But
This is the problem with Dragon's
Yeah.
Maze in general, because you have 11 mechanics in the smallest set out of the block, so it doesn't even really make that much sense
we did the math on it, and it was literally like there's 2 cards,
for each guild.
1 common, 1 rare, for each guild mechanic.
Yeah, and one monocolor, 1 multicolor.
Not even split like that either, because Renegade Crisis, like half of them are only in 1 color, and then the other half of the abilities that weren't only in 1 color are in 1 and a multicolor.
Yeah.
So Weapon Surge, Dragon Shift, that was the one of them that was in the multicolor.
Mm-hmm.
Renegade Crisis and Battering Crisis are one of the monocolor.
That is so strange.
Yeah, that was a hard thing to make into a cycle, I'm sure.
Okay, Morgan, what would be your first pick?
Wow,
you have a lot.
Yeah.
This is a crazy pack.
This is
I'm
a
gonna,
stacked
I'm
pack.
gonna
We got.
go say that, because there's also Punish the Enemy, Far and Away, and War Leader's Helix.
Jeez.
Oh, don't forget the
And-
Gruul War Chant.
And the Gruul War Chant, which is,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That would be like the sickest sealed pool pack
Right?
ever.
Yeah.
Stacked with a good foil rare too. That's really funny.
if I was gonna put myself in 2 colors right away, I'd probably go with Far and Away, just because I'm not committing entirely
To
to
either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. Otherwise, War Leader's Helix is just a really huge swing when
Yeah.
you play it.
That
Mhm.
This would be an extremely difficult pick
Yeah.
for me. So Jake, what would be your first pick out of that?
I think I'm probably the same on Far and Away. I really think that card is that strong. But also, Punish the Enemy leaves you most open to go into anything, I suppose.
Mhm. And actually, Renegade Crisis, if you look, you're not passing a Simic strategy like whatsoever with this
Yeah.
pack. You've got like a Mutant Spray, but that's a very low pick, very difficult to actually make work. It looks like you're passing a huge sort of Boros Gruul sort of pack with the War Leader's Helix, Punish, Gruul War Chant, Far and Away. I may
2 cards with Aurelia.
This is really difficult. I might take the Renegade Crisis only because it's monocolor. It's very good with Simic. It's very good randomly with cards like Common Bond and a Burst of Strength from the remaining 2 packs.
Mm-hmm.
You are passing some extremely powerful cards. Like I said, this would be a really
Dat Pack. DAT.
that looks like a very difficult pack to choose from.
That is
I would
a
have a
hard
really hard time because you're passing all sorts of powerful signals. you really have to be conscious of the fact that you're like, it's going to be difficult to go in Boros after I pass a War Leader's Helix. It's going to be difficult to go into Gruul after I pass a Gruul War Chant. It's going to be difficult to go into Dimir after I pass a Far and Away. You're passing all of like good cards from the strategy, which is why I think I'd ultimately go with the Renegade Crisis. Not just because it's foil.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
Jake.
safest to go with Murmuring Phantasm. Just let everybody fight over everything good.
All right, pack 2. What do we got?
Spirit Token. Boros Guildgate.
So
Breaking and Entering.
our rare is Breaking and Entering.
Wow,
really
these are all
spicy
really good.
uncommons.
Yeah. Also got Turn and Burn.
So Breaking Entering it was actually the promo card for, what was it, the
release.
The release. And it's blue and a black, you mill a player 8, or an Entering is 4, a black and a red, and you can return a creature card from any graveyard, right? It's not just your opponent's. It's hard to read because it's like sideways.
Yeah.
But put a creature card here. I can read it right here. Put a creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It gains haste
If
until
you
return.
do that, does it flip it?
Oh, that's good to learn. I should have done that a long time ago. But Entering is put a creature card from the graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Gains haste until return. Obviously synergizes well when you fuse it because you mill them and then you take a card from their graveyard and it gains haste. So it's like take their bomb creature out of nowhere at 8 mana.
Yeah. I'm gonna say that Breaking should have had art similar to like Blightning from Tibor or Tybalt versus Sorin, where he's like holding his head and ripping knowledge out of it, you know? And I don't really understand Entering's art at all.
Now I kind of want to look up
like
that
a burning temple. And...
I want to look up that Blightning. I'm not sure if they is this what you're
That's
talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
I feel like that would have been a much better Breaking art.
It's for listeners. It's a picture of a man with some standing behind another man, and
it's Tybalt back there.
Oh, that's Tybalt.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Tybalt behind a man doing some sort of red energy.
He's Blightning. He's casting Blightning on him. He's holding his hands like basically like lightning rods between this guy's head.
And the man looks like he's in agony. So it's a pretty cool picture. I don't know. I've always been kind of a sucker for the old lightning picture, which is just like a flaming skull picture. But okay, on to the pack. So what do
Beetle Form Mage, Sunspire Gatekeepers, which is I think the best. We've discussed
Sunspire is the white gatekeeper that
Cerelia is really good.
If you have the 2 gates, you get a 2/2 white Vigilance Knight.
I think we can all agree that the blue one's the worst. Beetle Form Mage, Crawl Warrior, those are all great commons. There's also Carnage Gladiator, which I love. Armed and Dangerous, and a Turn and Burn.
What a stacked pack.
Yeah, Armed and Dangerous, very good. We've played it twice, and like
just it
no matter which way you do it, splitting it up between 2 creatures, doing it all on one, it's devastating.
It's Armed is 2 mana, target creature is +1/+1 and gains double strike. And then Dangerous is 4 mana. All creatures able to block target creature this turn do so. Yeah. If you think about the versatility of it, you could use it as a one-sided board sweeper where you're like, oh, well, this is perfect. Yeah. I'll just double strike, kill all your creatures. Or you can use it as a kill condition. Okay, now block my little dude who has the lure while I get in with a huge double striker. Like, very, very strong
The
card.
turn after a Zertos Swine, this deals 12 damage to them if you have one other creature.
So what's the decision, Jake? What's it going to be?
I think I'd just take Turn and Burn. At least it shocks always. You know, if I don't decide to go into Is It. Armed and Dangerous is really, really strong, but I think Turn and Burn is just, I think it's the most relevant as far as removal goes.
I think I would go with I'd go with the Armed and Dangerous. I love that card too much. It's just done too many good things for me.
I feel
Morgan, what about you?
Turn and Burn kills so much on this. Yes.
No, it's true. Turn and Burn is just a phenomenal spell. Turn and Burn is, we just talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's 2 mana for turn. Target creature loses all abilities and becomes a 0/1 red weird. Or 3 mana, sorry. Becomes a 0/1 red weird. And Burn is 2 mana, deal 2 damage to a target creature or player. So when you fuse it, you get to
potentially kill anything.
Yeah. See, the key to why Turn and Burn is actually insane in Standard Constructor right now is it's like literally the only way to stop a Thragtusk, leaves play, get a beast ability.
Yeah. And the best thing about all of these fuse cards is how they're used either together or separately. A lot of them are really versatile. I think Alive and Well is the most straightforward as far as if you're going to fuse it, you're going to do it this way, you know. But Turn and Burn, Far and Away, and what was the other one? Armed and Dangerous.
Yeah.
All of those offer a lot of
Versatility.
variants. Yeah. You could do a lot with those.
All right, Morgan, what's the decision?
I'd probably take the Armed and Dangerous just because I like Turn and Burn, but I don't like playing in those colors. So
You don't like playing it, is it?
I don't.
Okay.
It's not as powerful as I think it could have been, and so I would play Gruul over Is It any day.
Okay.
Well, there was also a breaking and entering in that pack.
No.
Okay. Next, we've got a Dimir Guildgate. Oh, Deadbridge Chant pack. All right, so we got a Deadbridge Chant. Blast of Genius, Turn and Burn, Bronze. Wow.
Oh goodness.
Bronzebeak Moa. So anything else of note? Punish the enemy. So Deadbridge Chant is the card that we saw in that block constructed list. It's the one that mills yourself 10, and then you get to bring cards back from your graveyard to play. Jake and I talked about when we initially were cracking packs and we opened actually 2 Deadbridge Chants. We talked about how it may be dangerous to play in limited, but I may have reneged on that decision. I'm not sure. I kind of like it. I don't know. If you're playing against Mill, yes, it's like the worst card you could play.
Yeah.
But if you're not playing against Mill,
If you stash this up first and then push yourself into Jund and pick up all the best big Gruul guys with Blood Rush and all the best like Rakdos guys with Unleash, it's really strong. You know?
I mean, an obvious shortcoming of it is it's a 6-mana enchantment that doesn't do anything the turn you play it except mill yourself 10. The turn you play it, it's not going to lend you any sort of protection whatsoever against. It doesn't affect the board the turn you play it, and it's a 6-drop.
Yeah.
So that's like the biggest argument against it I could think of. But if you already have
enough.
Yeah, if you have a resilient deck, like let's say you're running a double Centaur healer block deck, Deadbridge Chant just became super, super powerful. You've got a 3/3 cheap creature that just gained you life. It's gonna buy you more time. If it dies, this is gonna bring it back, gain you more life.
I do think it's best in the Jund build where you have access to a lot of creatures, and Selesnya is good and it gives you a lot of creatures, but there's a lot of token production in it that isn't creature based. Yeah.
I would so anyway, Deadbridge Chant potential first pick, but it's between Blast of Genius and Turn and Burn. It sucks they're both in the same color combination. I've got a unhealthy obsession with Blast of Genius. I don't know, maybe people just don't see it the same way I do. It's a 6-mana sorcery. You choose a creature or player, you draw 3 cards, discard a card, and Blast of Genius deals damage equal to the discarded card's converted mana cost to a creature or player. It's a picture of Ral Zarek.
I wish the Niv Mizzet looked better in the background.
Oh, yeah.
It's oh wow!
I digress.
I did not even realize that Niv Mizzet is in the background. God.
He's just hanging out.
Yeah, he's like, hey, what's up?
I had no idea Niv Mizzet was so big. He's a very enormous dragon. His head is like size of a
didn't
quarter
you
of
see
his
him
building.
on Legions of Nish?
No, I didn't.
He's towering over.
But anyway, Ral Zarek is. What's the name of that stuff that they use? Their technology? I thought it had a name. Maybe it doesn't. But the Izzet have that weird weapon.
They call it.
They do have a name for it. Well, their weaponry is really insane.
Chemisters use it, and they have weirdo names for every mashup,
which is so cool.
It is cool, but the original Izzet cards do a better job of announcing what each one is. It this is it Chronarch, is it this, they have a lot more of those classes within the Izzet called out, because even artificers in the Izzet are called something specific that's not artificer.
So anyway, I'd probably, I guess I'd have to go Turn and Burn on this one. So I'd go Turn and Burn over the Blast. I would make that decision. Turn and Burn is straight up removal for one creature. It also both Blast of Genius. It should be noted both Blast of Genius and Turn and Burn give you card advantage. Turn and Burn not necessarily, but sometimes it's an excellent, amazing combat trick in limited because it's after blockers, make that a 0/1, shock that guy and kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's just straight up a 2-for-1. So since Turn and Burn is a more efficiently costed 2-for-1 potential, I would first pick that over the Blast of Genius. Jake?
I like Turn and Burn a lot. Punish the enemy is in this one too, but Turn and Burn is probably better.
Okay, Morgan?
Bronzebeak Moa.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Bronzebeak Moa. is a
Never
Selesnya
played
card,
this one yet.
and I have not played this card either.
Oh, crazy.
So maybe you want to describe your experience with it. It's a 4-mana 2/2, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +3/+3 until end turn.
Imagine playing that in a Selesnya deck, and you drop it on turn 4, and then turn 5 you have enough mana to drop 2 of your lower costed creatures. It's suddenly an 8/8, and all of a sudden your opponent has no idea what to do. It can get out of hand so easily, and while it can get killed by turn and burn, it works better in the creature-centric builds that I prefer. So that's why I pick it.
I wish we talked about how we really wish it had trample, because then it would just feel like it would be over the top, you know. I think it would be played a lot more if it did have trample or evasion of some sort, like not necessarily flying, because it's obviously a land bird, but I don't know. I don't know what kind of I don't know what kind of I don't know what kind of evasion you could give it exactly besides trample.
Forest walk, planeswalk. Planeswalk would have been cool.
Maybe if it was a 2/3 too, because
Yeah.
then it would be a reasonable blocker if you didn't have a creature drop for 4 mana.
That is my big problem with it, is the
lack of
It's not-
evasion.
Well, not even that. It's
Just
actually
the cost to power toughness ratio.
It's a green and white creature at 4 mana that comes in as a 2/2. You know, if it was a 3/3 for 4 and then it pumped by 2, I'd probably feel better about that. Because then I know it only goes to 7/7 in the play that you were talking about, but then it's always 5/5, which it still is on attack. You know, if you're playing only one creature at a time. But I mean, this card is good with Courser's Accord, just as a very playable card at 6.
Even playing Eyes in the Skies on your turn just to do it. You don't have to, or you can do surprise block with Eyes in the Skies too, which is kind of cool. Okay, so that's cool. Morgan?
Sure.
Next pack. What do
Scion of the Vitu-Ghazi, which would be perfect with Bronzebeak Moa, just saying.
Scion of
It would.
Vitu-Ghazi.
Actually, that's a really good follow-up to that.
So Scion of Vitu-Ghazi. Let's talk about this card very quickly. This is a 5-drop 4/4 elemental. Interesting picture, by the way. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, that's actually an interesting clause on that.
It's because it goes infinite off Seance if you don't.
Oh, interesting. If you cast it from your hand, put a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying onto the battlefield.
Seance it? Populate.
That's really interesting. I didn't even think about that. That's funny that you immediately.
I love Seance.
You're one of the few.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen.
Oh, you're the guy!
You're the one.
Yeah.
That is funny. I'm going to go to the bathroom quick. You want to just keep talking about that pack?
Okay.
Whatever's relevant in it.
I like Scion. There's also like Raw Farm Skeleton, which can be really annoying and limited because it's a reusable resource. Also Sunspire Gatekeepers. Mending Touch goes really late. It can be an okay trick if you're playing green. And then Hired Torturer.
Yeah, and that card's cool.
And if you're in black, Hired Torturer is a 2/3 defender for 2 colorless and a black. And you pay 3 and a black and tap it. Target opponent loses 2 life, then reveals a card at random from his hand. And that really just gets through board stalls all day. And it's also pretty well costed for 3-drop.
Yeah, actually, for a black creature, he's a really efficient creature at common, actually. When you think of Slate Street Ruffian as another black creature that can potentially deal 2 damage to your opponent. Yeah, and Hired Torture, it works well if you go into junk and you actually get the Axebane Guardians out of the last pack. But, so would you pick the Scion out of that pack first?
Yeah, I would.
And then what would you pick second if that wasn't there?
Probably Sunspire Gatekeepers or Raw Farm Skeleton.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna. I know we've talked about this on the podcast before, but Rock Farm Skeleton, I've played with it too, and I really like this card in Limited, actually. It looks like it's not as effective as it is at first blush.
Well, it's also a plant skeleton.
Yeah, which is always best. Yeah, I had 2 of them in a draft once, and just being able to keep being aggressive and not really care if they die, trading 4 cards out of your deck to guarantee that you always have a 4-power guy on the board that attacks in and takes out their guy. It's really efficient.
So the rare was Scion. What did you guys ultimately decide on out of that pack? Was there some pretty cool stuff, or did you just decide on the Scion probably?
The Scion first. for
Okay,
sure.
so if Scion wasn't in the pack, or what would be your second pick
That's Turn and Burn, and this is
from the
your-
other pack? Okay, so this was the pack. Interesting. Sin Collector Limited. It's probably pretty good, right? Honestly, I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet. I've had it played against me in Limited for full value.
It's sometimes
It's okay. Yeah.
So you guys decided on the Rot Farm Skeleton, or
I personally like Rot Farm Skeleton. As a first pick, I probably wouldn't take it necessarily. It is
Mhm.
one of those cards you want to make sure that you're going to be able to use, I guess. And there's more utility cards out of here, like Crawl Warrior, Hired Torture,
okay?
Sunspire Gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What did you say, Morgan?
Sunspire Gatekeepers.
Okay. Yeah, I could agree to that. That's cool. It's cool to pick up your gatekeepers really early too, because then you can be like, oh, okay, I just need to get a couple
need
Gil
these
Gates,
gates,
and this
yeah.
will be a really good value spell. Okay, Jake. Opening packs is fun, isn't it?
It's Learn. Plot.
Okay.
Oh,
Tagic. You have to take a Tagic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got Tagic out of this pack, and Tagic is a 4-mana.
Two of the most useless fuse cards.
Well, let me look at the rest of the pack first. My gut instinct says just slam the Tagic, but
Yeah.
let's make sure
Yeah.
there's nothing else insane in this pack. So Tagic is a 4-mana 2/2, which doesn't sound good, but he's indestructible, and his battalion
it was
is
okay.
he gets +5/+5, so he's a 7/7 indestructible attacker when you have
He's
3
crazy,
creatures.
yeah. He's a really annoying card.
Deployment,
Turn and Burn
absolutely.
kills him.
Yes.
Fatal Fumes kills him. So there are ways out of Tagic even in the set.
The fact that Turn and Burn kills indestructible, that's insane. I didn't even think about that.
But
Yeah.
not Falcon Wrath Aristocrat.
No, because it makes it indestructible until end of turn
Yeah.
instead of
Being
giving it the
indestructible.
ability indestructible.
Oh, I see. So as long as they have a sack outlet, it's gonna be indestructible because they can just sack that in response to you playing
Yeah,
a turn.
isn't it the same thing as pump effects? So like
Yes.
you could play
Yes.
Turn and Burn and then Giant Growth your creature in
Yeah.
response, and it still is a 3/4.
Actually, another example is Nivix Cyclops. They can cast an instant or sorcery, and then if
Its
it's on the
power is
stack,
still
it doesn't
boosted.
matter if you turn it; it's still gonna get boosted.
Yeah. So there are things that do override that.
Oh, layers. You're so
Yeah,
complicated.
So I
They
would
are complicated.
first pick the
And I
Tagic.
love that there's no rule; you just have to know.
I think.
Yeah.
Wait, what are the other notable cards in this pack?
There's Protect and Serve, which should have, it literally could have been Serve and Protect, and it would have worked exactly the same way, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So you
Because
don't,
like you
but
could have,
but both those sayings are legitimate sayings, right? Protect and serve and protect.
I've never heard it Protect and Serve. I've heard Serve and Protect.
I've heard Protect and Serve, or maybe that's just because I played with that card.
I used it. Does that count?
I don't really know. I mean, it's a weird
I
weird
think it could
picture
have
too.
easily been Serve and Protect in the other way, and it would have been fine.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure.
Like the
Also,
nomenclature.
The art seems backwards.
Yeah.
This is actually one of the weaker. I think one of the weaker.
Yeah, if they were
fuse
back to
cards.
back, it'd be really sweet too.
One of the weaker fuse cards, I think. It doesn't. I mean, it definitely lends itself to a 2-for-1 possibility, but it's a strange trick.
The -6/-0 is, of course, the most lackluster thing ever. Most of the time, you're just throwing Protect out there. Anyway.
Most of the time, that ability is not very relevant and limited.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of another example of it. What's the one from Return to Ravnica that has Overload?
Downsize.
Yeah.
Downsize.
That one actually is relevant, though. And that effect, where it affects the whole board,
Is
is
much
actually
better than
much
just,
better.
Yeah, than just affecting one creature.
Other cards out of that pack, there was Steeple Rock, Zerta Druid, Windrake, and Crawl Warrior as relevant creatures.
Okay.
There really wasn't anything else
Okay,
to
so-
speak of.
So let's say, well, actually, Morgan, would you first pick the Tagic like us, or
Yes.
okay? So Tagic's not in the pack. What else do we pick?
I like Crow Warrior because it's not a terrible top deck late game.
Hmm
Okay.
I like Windrake, Steeple Rock. I like all of these comments.
Yeah.
Zerta Druid, Crawl Warrior, Steeple Rock, and Windrake. Crawl Warrior probably leaves you
Most open.
most open and you don't really send much out of this pack to be like, go into green, because really it's just Zerta Druid then.
I think I would first pick the Zerta Druid only because I feel like this block for limited has slowed down a little bit from just straight gate crash, from just straight Return to Ravnica.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like what Zertod Druid does for you. It's like it turns into a win condition. We've had games where we play Zertod Druid and it does like 5 damage.
Yeah.
It turns into a Lava Axe that's ramped you the whole game. Zertod Druid is a very powerful spell. It's a 2-drop, 1/1. Actually, you know what? I'm really surprised we did not see it in a single block constructed list, since it's one of the few rampers from that entire block, actually.
Well, there's the green common from Gate Crash that untaps target gate.
Yeah, there is Greenside Watcher.
Greenside
yeah.
Watcher. Yep, that's a ramp
That
spell.
one is totally legit.
There's
too.
also Urban Evolution, which I know it's not necessarily a ramp spell since it's expensive, but it does technically ramp you if you get the extra land, and it's giving you card advantage at the same time.
That was actually in the Maze's End decks.
The Urban Evolution, or
Urban Evolution.
that's cool. Okay, so Zertod Druid I'd probably first pick,
That
even though
actually
it's
makes a lot of sense, too.
even though it's 2 color. I really like Zertod Druid a lot, and I know going 2 colors on your first pick sometimes can be sketchy, but if you can make a Zertod Druid work, I would definitely recommend it. In multiples, the card gets really insane. Okay, so I'm next, I think, right? All right, so we've got Amara Tandris out of this pack.
Holy hell!
Not the most exciting 7-drop creature from this block. Amara Tandris is a Selesnya card, 7 mana, 5/7. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to creature tokens you control. Be nice if it was just prevent all damage that was dealt to creatures you control.
Or like she tapped to populate or something.
Yeah, I had like Trust Annie is so much visibly better than this card.
Yeah,
but
even the animated temple. What is it called? No, the giant elemental one. The 7s or.
Is it the land that generates it? Oh, the
giant vigilance.
Oh, the 8/8 vigilance guy. Okay,
Yeah,
I forget his name. From Return to Ravnica.
He costs the exact same.
What's the 8/8 vigilance guy from Return to Ravnica? He's like common or an uncommon. He's not even.
It's some temple, right?
Yeah, it's like that too.
I don't know. I don't remember why I can't remember his name. But yeah, you're right. You'd rather just have like I almost feel like I'd rather have an 8/8 vigilance than a 5/7 with almost an ability that requires so much of your deck being consisting of tokens.
I think that this card should have had its power and toughness switched with Palisade Giant, because then Palisade Giant would be good.
Well, it turns out it turns out there are a lot of good first picks in here.
Okay.
We've got Alive and Well, Unflinching Courage, Revelvelt Maka, Boros Mastiff, Blissar Gatekeepers. I think the real options are between Alive and Well and Unflinching Courage, both of which are very powerful. Alive and Well is deceptively good. It might not seem that good. 4 mana it's like a hill giant plus you gain 2 life for each creature you control attached to it. You know, it doesn't sound very interesting, but Alive and Well has proven to be an amazing card in Limited. I've gotten a chance to play it a couple times. It can completely give you that resilience you need to get to your late game. If you're more of like a mid-rangey drop the fatties, you know, Alive and Well is exactly what you want to just sort of gain that time you need, get another blocker. Really excellent card. Unflinching Courage, I think I would have to first pick though, just because I've played against it. It's such a powerful effect. The +2/+2 trample lifelink. It's already made its way into standard constructed in the Bant Hexproof deck. So I would, sorry, I didn't give you guys it. I would first pick the Unflinching Courage. Let's see what you guys would first pick. So Unflinching Courage for me, toss up between that and Alive and Well.
Fish.
A Species Gorger, wow!
I have first picked a Species Gorger before. It was a terrible pack.
Oh, must have been. I don't mind Species Gorger in the very, very right deck.
I like.
Boo! Boo that art!
Yeah, we don't like the Unflinching
I'm gonna get
Courage
all
deck.
of my Unflinching Courages altered to just be a big black square.
Because you'd rather have that.
I think the opportunity to 2-for-1 is a lot lower with Alive and Well than Unflinching Courage, which is probably why I take that one. It would be a lot easier if I had already had a couple picks to like settle into my colors. Also, like
Alive and Well plays well in Gruul. also,
Yeah.
without the white necessarily.
It actually plays fine in Azorius too. If you
Just
just
having
have the
the
well,
giant, but-
just like a sideboard, like I
Yeah.
need a way to gain a bunch of life to beat this aggro deck.
Yeah, and actually, if you're Azorius Skies, well is a good one, because then it's like, oh, I'll just keep swinging in the air, and now I'll gain a bunch of life.
And maybe even if you're banned, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, so like, while Unflinching Courage is really good, I've had way too much experience playing against people who have all of the removal to be like as confident in taking that as I would for taking Alive and Well or even the Rubble Belt Maka.
And Dragon's Maze actually set removal up really well too. There's a lot of removal in Dragon's Maze, I feel like.
I do have to say, if you get Unflinching Courage and on a Ascended Law Mage, you're looking like you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
With
You
your
know-
5/4 flying Trampler Lifelinker.
There is
Hexproof.
too much removal in Dragon's Maze for like to justify an Unflinching Courage first pick, I feel like.
I could agree to that, I guess. I'd probably still take the Courage, but it is I can definitely see the argument for Alive and Well being a better first pick.
Yeah.
Because it's less color intensive too. But Alive and Well is 4 mana, you get a 3/3 Centaur, and then 1 mana you get 2 life for each creature you control. So 5 mana, you get 5 mana, you get a 3/3 and gain 2 life at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of cool. Terrible picture.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. And when they fuse, it looks like somebody's trying to grope that Centaur. Here, this is for you.
This is for you.
I got this for you.
Thanks, G.
Yeah. Foil Renegade Crisis.
Notion Thief.
Alright, Notion Thief is the rare. This was, slightly hyped when it was first revealed, and then no one did anything with it. So it's a 4 mana, it's a Dimir card, 4 mana, 3/1 flash, human rogue, and if an opponent would draw a card, except the first one he or she draws in each of his or her draw steps, instead that player skips that draw, and you draw a card. So supposedly it was going to be a good out to Sphinx's Revelation, but it turns out it just wasn't played. It's kind of an overpriced 1 toughness
it's like
creature.
It's like a better answer to Garruk Primal Hunter middle ability. Like, that's actually... Oh, that's cool. I'll draw those.
It's like your Planeswalker dies,
Yeah.
I draw 4.
Yeah.
That is actually kind of cool.
Much better than... I mean, Sphinx's Revelation is still a fine one to do it against, but it's probably less relevant than to that player than it is to the Garruk Primal Hunter player.
I feel like a lot of times when Sphinx's Revelation is cast, it's when your opponent's tapped out anyway. It's like... Because what the Sphinx's Revelation control player does is, are you playing a relevant spell this turn that I need to counter? Okay, no. Then I'm just going to draw 4 cards and
Yeah,
life
and if you're blue-black and you're leaving 4 mana up, is your opponent really going to be like, I can safely cast the Sphinx's Revelation?
Exactly. I don't think so.
Yeah.
So Notion Thief, unfortunately a 4 mana 1 toughness creature is really the bane of this in limited. Even if it is a surprise blocker. So what else we got in this pack?
Far and Away, Feral Animist, Higher Torture are the ones I kind of pulled as pretty good. There's a couple of Flustones, there's 3 Flustones in here.
Wow.
Creepers. There's the Maze Rusher, Maze Glider, another Species Gorger, Thrashing Moss Dog, and a Semi-Guild Gate.
Okay.
Maze Glider's good.
So what would you guys first pick?
Far and Away.
I think I probably agree to that.
I think I would.
I agree to that too. So fairly straightforward picking here. Thrashing Moss Dog is very good too, but Far and Away has much more potential upside. I mean, what I really like about Far and Away and Limited is auras are very popular in this entire block because you have extremely powerful ones like Madcap Skills, Gift of Orzhova, Unflinching Courage. There's probably even more that I'm not remembering right now. But regardless, the Far gets rid of all of that, so you don't have to worry about that. But in addition, an entire guild mechanic is Cypher, so Far gets rid of that as well. So just playing the bounce effect is nice. Just playing the sack effect is nice too. So if you can play either half in your deck and you're not playing the other half, you should still be satisfied.
Yeah.
Far and Away is a phenomenal spell. So yes, I would first pick that. Jake. Opening packs is so much fun. I love it.
Oops, sorry. Just throw it at you.
Let's just do it.
Another
Let's just do it
Tajic.
for days.
I only open Tajic.
That is
Fine.
strange. Okay, so we got Tajic. I think we'd probably
we all
first pick him.
picked that.
I think so.
Right.
Well, let's look at what else is in here first.
I
I'm trying to
do
think
like
of, is there any
Skeleton
uncommon?
Sense.
Is there any uncommon that you would take over Tajic? And that's the real question. I might like. What about an Armed and Dangerous?
I'd like an Armed Endangered with my Tagic.
How about a turn and burn?
I think a Tagic actually makes me really want to play a Tagic.
Yeah.
I don't think that Turn and Burn really wants me to be like...
I agree with you. I'm just
'Cause
trying to
it's
think
like-
of any uncommon that I would take over Tagic.
I take Tagic and there's a Turn and Burn in that pack. So one other player gets a Turn and Burn to deal with my Tagic that I know of, you know?
Yeah.
So now my Tagic's like good to go.
How much indestructible do we even have in this block?
There's not a lot.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And
either.
then, like,
Ready and Willing
Yeah, Ready and
gives it. Is that the only one that... No, Rootborn Defenses also
Yeah.
allows for indestructible.
Are there even other
But those
creatures?
both-
and Borrowstorm.
Those both,
Yeah.
all three of those trump Turn and Burn anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
Because you can do it after they've turned it. Makes
Well,
sense.
even doing it before, your creatures are indestructible
Yeah.
this turn, your permanents are indestructible this turn.
Yep.
Anyway, there's also Blaze Commando, which is, he's cool, but
I got a chance to play him. He's actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
Originally, I thought he's a 5-mana 5/3. Whenever an instant or sorcery spell you control deals damage, put 2 1/1 red and white soldier creature tokens with haste onto the battlefield. I thought it was whenever an instant or sorcery spell you control deals damage to a player.
Yeah.
The fact that it's just deal damage is actually really relevant.
Yeah.
Because then you can play, when you're playing turn and burn there, you're like turning that, burning that, getting soldiers. A lot of good things are happening. And I have gotten to do that, by the way, the turn and burn with Blaze Commando in a crazy 4-color, insane sort of deck. But
he's cool.
what are the other notable picks?
Jellin Sphinx is pretty good.
He's just gelling.
He's gelling.
Gelling like Magellan. Alright, he's a 5-mana 1/5 flying vigilance. When he attacks, other attacking creatures get +1/+1 until end of turn. Played against this card. Really annoying.
It
really
is.
good.
Flying Vigilance 1/5 means
My God.
they're not going to get through it.
Amazing
Pumps your
blocker.
team.
And I just made my army better.
Yeah. There's also Gruul War Chant
Yeah.
and Punish the Enemy. So this was just a really stacked pack
I
as
agree.
far as the uncommons.
So Tagic's
Actually, with Tagic.
not in the pack. What do we second pick?
Look at all the flying in this pack. I would probably take either the War Chant or the Punish the Enemy, just based on the amount of flying that this pack offers, and Azorius cards too.
I guess
Jellin Sphinx isn't going to happen.
Gruul War Chant is the 4-mana enchantment. Each attacking creature you control gets +1/+0 and can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. It's a kind of a shout out to Orca Shore Flame from the past. Similar effect,
it's a
except
mashup of
vastly
Orca
better.
Flame and, well, I don't know. Oh, Goblin War Drums. We talked about this.
Yep.
Okay,
So-
well, what would you choose?
Gruul War Chant
If Tagic wasn't
has proven to be an excellent and powerful spell. We haven't really seen it splash into Constructed much. The one exception being sort of this Red Deck Wins list that's running Rootbound Crag and what's the other mana fixer for it?
Stomping.
Stomping Grounds. And they're just like doing it for your Gruul War Chant pretty much. And you can still you still play your Burning Tree Emissary.
Mhm.
And your Reckoner. Actually, I've heard the Red Deck Wins list might be running a 1-up Temple Garden as well, so they can cast Emissary, Reckoner, and Gruul War Chant.
Probably take the Gruul War Chant just because there's not a whole lot else for Gruul in this pack. So I would be guaranteed that the person I'm passing it to would not be cutting me off next pack.
I'd agree. I think I love Gruul War Chant, and I've gotten a chance to play with it in Limited, and it feels broken sometimes. The reason that it's so powerful is it gives you effect as soon as you play it. So it's like your opponent's expecting to have some good blocks, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, now all my guys are bigger, and you have to. It's all like all my guys have mini madcap skills on them.
Mhm.
Very strong spell. Not super effective in multiples. I mean, you still do get the double attack bonus, but they still
Yeah,
only have to
the
block
first
two
one is,
creatures.
Like,
They're really important.
is
ones.
like
yeah.
groundbreaking, and then the second one is mild. Like it's like oh,
Then it's
extra
just then
power.
it's just an Orca
Yeah.
Shore Flame.
Yeah,
But yeah, so interesting. Multiple Tagics.
yeah, that is.
I'll play
very
2
true.
Tagics
Yeah.
in my deck.
You
I
could. You could.
Legend rule.
Yeah.
I mean that kind of sucks, but still. All right, this pack has Renounce the Guilds, which we talked about was sort of being played a lot in the block list,
It's
and
Tagic.
It does.
I don't really think it's a very good first pick. It's certainly playable in Limited, but I'd probably. You don't necessarily have to keep it in sideboard, but the fact that you're probably running multicolored permanents too kind of turns me off to it in Limited. So what else is notable in this pack? Flux Charger, Blast of Genius, Hunter of Night Vale, all three of which are excellent uncommons. Pilfered Plans, Leave Decree, Opal Lake Gatekeepers, Maze Abomination, Sunspire Gatekeepers. This is a stacked pack. We've also got Runner's Bane and Biash in the first blade.
Yeah,
This is a tough first pick. So because I have a sickness, I'd probably pick the Blast of Genius. Haunter of Night Vale is amazingly powerful. I've seen it in multiples when we were doing Triple Dragon's Maze. When we were doing Triple Dragon's Maze, it was like 200 of Night Vale. Suddenly your army can't do anything. And it buys me all the time I need to just play, my Maze
I
Abomination.
just have to get my flyer online or whatever.
Really insane, especially alongside Maze Abomination, because it's like your guys are weaker, so you can't even you have to double, triple block my Hunter of Night Vale to kill it. I'm gonna kill all of your blockers. Really, really strong. So really, it's Blast of Genius versus Haunter. I've played Flux Charger, and I really like this card. It's a really excellent, kind of underrated card. Should be noted, you don't have to flip the power and toughness. It's a 1/5 flying blocker.
I really like it.
Flux Charger is very good. I don't think I'd first pick it over the Blast or the Haunter.
Haunter kills it, right?
Yeah.
If you flip it.
Yeah.
So don't flip
So
it.
don't do that.
Wait,
Okay. I
I
would.
thought that power adjusting effects were layered before power switching. Power toughness adjustment, or after. So you switch power toughness, then you apply the effect first, then you switch power toughness.
If it's applied first and then you switch it, then it would. But I don't think that. Maybe. I don't even know. Layers are terrible.
Yeah, they are.
Hard.
I don't know. That sounds difficult, but I'd have to go with the Blast of Genius. So what about you guys?
Haunter.
I think Haunter. Yeah, I feel like I'd take that.
Okay.
Blast is good, but
But
there's so much card draw in this block too. In blue, there's so much of it. Pilfered Plans was in this pack too, and that's in Haunter colors. There's also Thought Flare later. There's also Urban Evolution next pack. There's also Inspiration.
I'm just
I think Blast of Genius is good, but
for me it's just I look at it as straight up. I'm gaining card advantage. I'm destroying potentially your most powerful creature, or I'm killing you.
yeah.
Keep in mind it's also possibly greater than Lava Axe.
I see the chance for it. I think it's more justifiable as a later pick when you see what your converted mana costs are at.
The problem with what you're saying is you get one pack to look at Blast of Genius, and I think it's a very highly picked card. The latest I've seen it is maybe 4th pick.
I've seen them so late before, I feel like.
But we've only done 5 drafts.
No.
We haven't done that many drafts.
So
but
both of you can't make assumptions about Blast of Genius, is what you're saying.
I can tell you I've played it, and it's straight up won me the game multiple times. Straight up oh, he's at 5, I happen to have Blast of Genius and a 6-drop in my hand, you're dead. Or another time, it was I have a Flux Charger, I have a Nivix Cyclops, and it's okay, well, kill them your relevant creature, gain some more card advantage. It really, for me, it's an amazing card to build into. You've played everything in your hand, your last card is Blast of Genius. I'm ready to draw some cards and kill one of your blockers or deal some damage to you. I really like Blast a lot.
As you're kind of a finisher almost, but I feel like Haunter of Night Vale affects the game more often than Blast of Genius does. Maybe that's what I should have said.
We just, it's okay to have differing opinions about.
No, it's not. We all have to agree.
It really is okay. I like that better anyway, when we have different ideas about what's better and what's worse. Okay, I opened that pack, correct? So Morgan is next.
Legion's Initiative. Oh boy.
Keep your guilty.
So Legion's Initiative is the mythic that we have. We talked about that briefly. Josh Utterlayton was playing it in his
That's a creature.
Boros block deck. So it's a red and white enchantment. Red creatures you control get +1/+0. White creatures you control get +0/+1. Then it has red, white, exile it. Exile all creatures you control. At the beginning of the next combat, return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control, and those creatures gain haste until return. So it saves you from Supreme Verdict. It saves you from what was some more of the cards that we said it saves you from? There's actually quite a few. It saves you from any spot removal.
Gaze of Granite.
It turns off any spot removal. It turns off any removal at all. Actually, it turns off all of that. And the beautiful part about this is
you can block with your creatures, flash them out, and bring them back to attack next turn.
But also, if they have any sort of combat step shenanigans, Actually, that's kind of interesting. So if during their combat they do a trick and you use this, your creatures don't come back until their combat step.
It's at the beginning of the next combat. Yeah.
combat.
So whenever if you use it during combat, it's the next combat step is when they'll come back.
So their combat,
Yeah.
your opponent's
Yeah,
combat
yeah.
step. Now that's kind of interesting. So it disappears for quite a while.
Yep.
It's a
Turn.
it's an interesting
Then they
use of
gain
it.
haste. So
Mhm.
What
there's-
else we got in here?
There's a lot of good Boros cards. Boros Mastiff, Rumblebutt Maka, Vyashino First Blade. Just like really solid. The uncommons are Scab Clan Giant, which is kind of iffy for me. I don't like it over the Fight Beast that was in Gatecrash.
Yeah, that one's amazing.
Skyplan Giant is a 6-mana 4/5 giant warrior. When it enters the battlefield, it fights target creature and opponent controls chosen at random.
Yep. And then we have Toil and Trouble, which I really like just because it's 6 mana, probably kill you.
Mm-hmm.
It does at least 4 damage, probably more. And then there's Give and Take, which I haven't ever played with. It kind of seems like a
Take,
worse
yeah,
time.
don't play take.
Yeah.
So if you're playing give,
Well,
that's fine.
Okay, Toil and Trouble is it's a Sign in Blood plus a what's the name of that old spell that deals damage equal to the number of cards they have in their hand?
First one is Stormcaller.
That's
The second one is Sudden Impact.
yeah, I think the Sudden Impact is the one I
That's
had
the
in my
red version.
Okay, so that seems more right. But I've actually played this, and like Morgan said, this one to me was like deceptively good. I didn't realize how good it actually was.
Yeah.
I felt like a lot of times I was just gonna not be able to use Trouble effectively. But there's a lot of times, especially in this full block where it's a little bit slower, they'll have like 4 or 5 cards in their hand.
Yeah.
So then you have potential to deal like 7 to them at 6 mana, and it can be very
Yeah.
explosive. It's
Well,
in the
if they
right
have-
colors
if they
for
have
it too.
4, they lose the 2, then they take 6 more.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
8.
And
8
you-
for 6.
And the versatility of using it really is like if you're not gonna maybe you need the extra cards instead. Say you want to be like, okay, I'll draw 2 and you lose 4,
Yeah.
and then it's still really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I draw 2, lose 2, you take 4.
That's
That's
be
pretty good,
Yeah, I
yeah.
would like that too. If you're unable to kill them,
Even
with
if
the
they
toil.
have
Attack.
Even if they have 2 cards in hand, it's still 6 damage.
Actually, I was wrong. It's even more damage than that. I said it would have been if you use Toil and Trouble on them. They're losing 2 from the toil, and they're losing another 2
Yeah.
from those 2 cards
So
they
it's
draw.
at least 4
Yeah,
if they're hellbent.
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So Toil and Trouble is a pretty cool card. I don't know how early we pick it. I feel like you could fairly early pick it. It's not removal,
Yeah.
which kind of makes it a little bit weaker, but
The toil art doesn't look like Rakdos. It looks like Dimir to me.
yeah, you're right because it's some sort of man sitting with all sorts of weird.
He's got paperwork in front of him. What kind of Rakdos guy chills with paperwork?
But he has all sorts of
The
weird.
most hardcore council
yeah,
ever.
yeah.
I don't know what the devices are
Fun-loving
that are
account.
going into his head, but it looks very strange.
Yeah, they're apparati.
Okay, so what was your decision,
I
Morgan?
have to look at the
Well,
art.
probably Toil and Trouble just because I really like it. It's kind of like you and your Blast of Genius.
Okay.
But there's also some really good creatures in there. Rumblebutt Maka, Vyashino First Blade.
Mhm.
Although, like, so much Boros in this pack
Yeah.
makes me kind of unwilling to do.
Yep, you're gonna be. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're really passing that signal, I could see that.
Yep, there's also, like, Zertad Druid and Crawl Warrior. So it requires a lot of decision making, for sure.
I still have a thing for Scab Clan Giant, even though it's a 6-drop. I've had it be really effective for me. I caught a lot of flack in one of my latest draft videos because I picked it and I kind of married the pick too much too early, and then it turned out I was like in 4 colors, and guess what color happened to be open? The 5th color that I wasn't in. So
Yeah.
it didn't pan out. A lot of people were like, you should just play Desperate Dude. Don't marry the Scabland Giant pick. But I really like that card. I don't know, like, I know it's random, and usually random effects are terrible. But for some reason, I'll tell you this: I haven't screwed up with Scabland Giant. There's not one time where it didn't
Its
work
power
out.
and toughness is super relevant in a format where creatures are not as cost effective as they have been in the past.
Yeah.
Especially when you start getting into the 6-drops. You know,
Mhm.
there are a lot of 6-drops that do not meet like the power toughness standards that we come to expect from 6-drops usually.
Mhm.
So one that like always sticks out in my mind is Asperia's Skywatch or Skyline Predator, you know, from Return to Ravnica, both of them.
just
3/3,
eating
3/4,
those,
yeah, and they're both 6-drop flyers. So
Yeah, and Spire Monitor from Skarsbog
Mhm.
was a 5-mana 3/3 flash creature,
Right.
which I think I almost like more than a 6-mana 3/4. It's
yeah,
tough to
I
say.
totally do.
Yeah, I think
and
that there's a world of difference between a 5
Yeah.
and a 6 drop in limited.
yeah, and
It sucks.
Skyline Predator is good.
It sucks that Zerta Druid is in this pack with
Yeah.
Scabman Giant.
It's just- the whole thing about this pack is
Yeah.
that it's Boro.
It's very red.
Yeah,
it's very very red.
It's ready to go Naya
But
just out of the pack.
The problem is there's like
This
beyond the
would be a
red.
great sealed pool.
Beyond the red, there's not a ton of great cards. We talked about
Actually,
that.
Legion's Initiative plus Scab Clan Giant is really good together.
Just in case.
Yeah. I have a 5-power dude that comes down, and then I'll blink him out. And
Just in case
Yeah.
I hit the wrong creature.
Because I have 8 mana only. Whatever.
That's kind of funny. But Give and Take is the Simic spell. They mentioned it briefly, but we didn't say what it was. It's the give side is 3 mana, put 3 +1/+1 counters on target creature, and the take is remove all +1/+1 counters from target creature you control. Draw that many cards. I've played it. I love this card. Just playing give plus
Yeah.
3 counters is insane.
I've
done
yet to
I've,
see take.
I've done it. I did them together, and it turned out after drawing 3 lands, I was like, oh, I wish I just left the
Good.
3 counters
Yeah,
on
yeah.
it. So it doesn't always work out as well
I
as
think
you want
that
it, but
as far as draw spells go, take didn't have to be this conditional. I think it could have been like
draws
Draws,
equal to the
yeah.
number of +1/+1 counters on
on
target creature you
target
control.
creature. Yeah, and I think that would have been
Probably
so
a
much
little more
safer.
acceptable.
Or remove any number of +1/+1 counters from.
Yeah, so at least
like,
you have the choice. That's
Yeah.
true. A little more decision making to be
Yeah.
had. Who opened the last pack? Now I forget. Morgan. Okay.
Ho! Here we go. Wha- Nothing. Skylasher.
Skylasher.
Ooh,
Cool card.
better.
Wow, actually trumps 2 of the uncommons in this pack right off the bat.
All right. So Skylasher is a 2 mana, 2/2.
See, it's hard to get
I
on.
got it.
Insect with this couch like people just
It
sink
eats
into
people.
it. It does. Skylasher is a 2 mana 2/2 insect with flash. It can't be countered. It has reach and protection from blue. We've talked about this spell being really powerful just because in terms of cost to power toughness ratio to abilities, it's got like probably the most we've ever seen. Really, right? I mean, have we seen a 2-drop with more abilities?
Yeah, this, in my opinion, is kind of how green creatures should look. I like this kind of green creature where it's like
Got a use. It's got many
It's-
uses. It's
first of
versatile.
all, yeah, I play totally against whatever strategy you're thinking you're going to do. If the only thing that would have made this better is if it had Hexproof. I flash in at the end of your turn. I can't be countered. I also block all of your blue flyers, and I'm not going to die by them. you
Yeah,
know?
I really like that this like surprise kills Windrake, it surprise kills Vassal Soul,
Yeah.
it surprise kills
Could have
Judge's
had-
Familiar.
Could have had something like First Strike when it enters the battlefield, like gains First Strike until end of turn.
That would have been cool. I feel like they've already matched up. How many abilities? Four abilities on this card.
It
feels
is a
good.
lot. It is a lot to put on there. I feel like I still, instead of maybe can't be countered, I would have rather had First Strike. Even just outright First Strike on a green creature at rare is not
Mhm.
out of the realm of possible, in my opinion, when you're using it to be like, it's literally a surprise. And this one is supposed to be a surprise in every way, I think.
So Skylasher hasn't seen a lick of constructed play. I've played it in limited before, and I like it. It's not like broken in limited by any means, but I can see some times where it would be really insane. Like we talked about against the Blue Flyers deck, it's just such an effective spell. So is there anything better than it in this pack, or would we?
I think there's a lot of cards I'd pick over it still.
Okay, so let's talk about the remaining good cards in this pack.
There's Hazda Snare Squad, Armored Wolf Rider, Zerta Druid, and Thrashing Moss Dog. All, in my opinion, are relevant picks.
Okay.
I guess there's also Maze Abomination.
Jellin Sphinx.
Jellin Sphinx and Flux Charger. These two, if I was gonna pass on a Skylasher,
Then you probably
I
don't want
probably
these.
just would pass these two.
Okay.
Yeah, because they can just Flux Charger in particular. I would probably want to pass because against that, I'm not really gonna be able to use that ability that often.
So what would you first pick?
I really hate to say anything green other than the Skylasher, so maybe the Wolf Rider? I don't know.
Interesting. I think I would actually go with the Skylasher only because, not necessarily that it's the best card per se in the pack, but protection is pretty rare in this block.
Yeah.
There's not a ton I can think of. Woodlock Crawler and Skylash are the only two that immediately come to mind. There must be more than that. I really can't. Oh, Lavinia too. So it seems like it's all Dragon's Maze.
I thought there was one that was protection from each color. Oh yeah, because there's Blood Baron has both black and white.
All Dragon's Maze. Pretty interesting. I can't think of a single return.
I don't think they wanted it in those earlier sets because of the way those sets were. You know, it makes more sense in Dragon's Maze when all the guilds are represented. You know, that those protection colors should also be there, because if you had this in like Gatecrash,
it would have been too obnoxious.
It would have just beat the crap out of Simic, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm Gruul. I'll just flash this in, block your Drakewing, and now I'll just attack into you. And
you can't stop me with your Shamble Shark. You can never get in with him. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a good point. So
and Dimir, too, actually. Would have been a nightmare for them.
At least Deathcall Rogue could get by it.
Yeah.
Woo! You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
So, Morgan, what was your first pick? This was the rare for you.
I don't know about. I'd first pick Skylash. I mean, protection from blue is really relevant, as well as reach, because most of the flyers
are in blue. Yeah.
But Armored Wolf Rider takes so much to remove outside of like that just flyers matchup. It almost always guarantees that your opponent's gonna be 2 for 1.
Yeah, Armored Wolf Rider is one of the most efficient cards in this block, and that's like saying something. I feel like a 4/6 for 5 is not amazing. It's actually right on the curve. 5, it's like 10 total power toughness for 5 mana, which is like just about right for green and white.
And we're still on a path to discovering how important the 5 and 6 drops are in this format. We're not quite sure yet, Not all of the limited strategies have really been dissected yet and seen what's best.
Yeah, it was so much easier to push 2 drops earlier when it was
Gatecrash or Return Ravnica. Yeah, now it's a little more difficult.
Yeah. And then, I just like Armored Wolf Rider better than like Xertas Druid also because it's Selesnya as opposed to Gruul. So, while like people on your left and right can be going deep on the Gatecrash pack, you can get like the good stuff from the
Return to Ravnica pack. Yeah.
Okay. And you can still pick up totally legitimate evolved creatures from like Krakenura and etc. Actually, I think it was.
I thought I just did. You open the Skylash?
I opened the Skylash.
Oh, okay.
Morgan, not gonna say anything.
I want to
open the pack.
No, I just left. You guys could have gone through like 3 packs without.
Oh, you're right. We should have.
That's true. My hands are all sweaty now. There we go. All right. What do we got here? Obsidat's Aid. Probably not the first pick. But an interesting card nonetheless.
Very cool card.
One that Jake and I were very excited for, and we were all like, when's it going to happen? When's that Omniscience Nicol Bolas deck going to come? It's a 5 mana return target permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is actually a very unique res effect, from what I understand.
You get lands back.
Historically, res spells are creatures only. So to see something that affects any permanent from your graveyard is very unique.
Yeah, the options are endless, really.
Okay, this pack also has Armed and Dangerous, Unflinching Courage,
of course.
Battering Crisis, Beetleform Mage, Runner's Bane, Sunspire Gatekeepers. So I think my first pick would just have to be their Armed and Dangerous. We just talked about how much upside it has, and I do like it much more than the Unflinching Courage. The other uncommon is Bred for the Hunt. This is an unfortunate card. Bred for the Hunt is a Simic card, 3 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it, it deals... Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it deals damage to a player, combat damage, you may draw a card. Unfortunately, not that impressive. Weird picture, too.
Yeah, and actually, just to say about that picture, it looks like old Simic, not like new Simic.
I played it with Elusive Crisis once.
That's okay.
It was fantastic.
That sounds
It's also
cool.
good with Cloudfin Raptor.
And
I mean, if
those are the two.
If you can make it work, it's insane. Okay,
Battering
so
Crisis.
I think I'd have to pick the Armed and Dangerous. Just too powerful. Would you guys probably agree to that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think out of that pack for sure.
All right. Now it's Morgan.
Yay. Ooh, yay, Renegade Crisis again.
Huzzah! Finally.
Oh, and Crozata Gorgon, pretty cool.
She's cool.
I believe it's Karazda.
Okay, whatever. And far and away, you're hurting my feelings.
Yeah.
Sorry. You don't know how to pronounce these made-up words?
Yeah. How dare.
Karazda Gorgon's 5 mana. I'd love it if Karazda was a real word. That'd be funny. And it's pronounced Karazda.
Yeah.
Do you believe me now?
with an A sound in there. Just mashing it.
Karazda Gorgon.
Karazda.
5 mana, 2/5 Death Toucher. I'd love to hear the person that made the word up, Karazda, be like, you guys are idiots. You're pronouncing Karazda this whole time. It's like something that's completely separate.
Yeah.
It's pronounced Magic the Gathering. You didn't realize that? It's like, what? What are you talking about? 5 mana, 2/5 Death Touch, 2 mana, remove a +1/+1 counter from a creature you control. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Jake and I did some broken stuff with this in a couple drafts that we've done.
I would say it was efficient and synergistic and not necessarily broken.
We still lost, unfortunately, but I remember it being like, oh, we'll take out all your low toughness guys.
Mhm.
You know, it's like
Well,
what's nice is
it immediately
yeah.
stops ground assault.
Yeah,
Like,
so it stops attacks.
yeah.
And then gives you a strategy for like killing their creatures,
Mhm.
pinging them off. So I really do like Karazda Gorgon a lot. It's quickly become one of my favorite from Dragon's Maze. So
Anything else out there?
what is the pick?
Oh, Far and
Oh,
Away.
goodness,
Far and
yeah,
Away's there too.
There's a Renegade Crisis, which I probably picked just because it seems like it would be
Good for the
best,
good
yeah.
for the Simic, or good for pump
Works
effects.
well with Karazda Guildmate.
Yeah.
Or Gorgon.
And then Far and Away. Karazda. It's Karazda.
I don't actually know.
Okay,
I was
the
nitpicking for no
Gorgon
reason. I have
lady?
no idea how it's pronounced. I've always called it Karazda.
If it was
I think
Karazda,
Jake and I just
it
said
would be an
Karazda.
A in there. So it should be Karazda.
It would, yeah. This pack would be a lot easier if I knew how many creatures I had access to, like, because Far and Away is definitely just straight removal. If I had more creatures, if I had less creatures, Karazda Gorgon, but I think Far and Away would be the pick just because it allows for a lot more, like, in response to
Mhm.
your suiting up with the
Yeah.
Unflinching Courage.
The best is always like with Far and Away. You see 2 relevant creatures out there, or 1 relevant creature, 1 not so relevant creature. They cast a new one that's not something you care about. Then you Far and Away in response to them casting it, bouncing the other crappy creature they have and letting them sack the good creature they have.
I think like you, I would first pick the Renegade because it's less color intensive and it's a very efficient creature in itself. So even if you end up Gruul, it's going to get fat and
Mhm.
eventually
Yeah.
just take over the game that way. And then I would probably also second pick the Far and Away. I really like that card a lot too. And actually I wouldn't disagree with you if you were to argue that you'd pick Far and Away over Renegade just because it's potentially more powerful. I also like that Tide Drinker is in this pack. I'm actually surprised that's like the first one we've
Yeah.
seen. Tide Drinker
Yeah.
it's just a common, but it's an Orzhov white and a black 2/1 lifelink extort. Excellent Orzhov card.
Yeah.
I haven't even gotten a chance to play with it, but I played against it and it just does everything that the Orzhov player wants to do
hmm
It's also a 2-drop when a lot of people aren't actually playing 2-drops.
in this format. Exactly, yeah.
So you can get in there for at least 2 or 3.
Yeah, and
Gorgon was like good with so much out of this card.
well, the thing with extort usually is there comes a point where if your opponent hasn't done enough and you have like 2 or 3 extort guys out,
Mhm.
there's almost like no mode for recovery unless they board sweep. It's like, yeah, I'll let you get in, but you're never going to be able to get in because then I can crack back with my extort creatures. So it's like almost like a stalemate position that's just a supreme advantage for the extort player because they're willing to sit back and just extort you out.
Mhm.
But like you said, because Tide Drinker is a 2-drop, let's say you get in twice with it on turns 3 and 4. They're at 16, you're at 24, and you have an extort engine. That's a tough recovery for them to swing that back.
Mhm.
So it does a lot. It does a lot of work early.
Yeah, I really do like how they made the extort strategy play out. They did
This
it really
this one
well.
is very good with its guild.
Mhm.
Well, it's really hard to have a curve with extort because you're like, do I play my Kingpin's Pet next, or do I wait to extort it?
No, I
Yeah.
agree. Sometimes you're like, do I want to get the extra extorter now, or do I want to extort off something now?
Yeah,
That's why Gutter
good.
Skulk is awesome in extort decks.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, next pack.
Ooh,
Foil.
Chocobo.
Foil Bronze Beak Moa.
There's Blood Scrivener, Profit Loss. Blood Scrivener's the rare. Profit Loss, Crisis Incubation and Spike Jester for uncommons.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, actually, Hidden Strings I've come to really like. Windrake, Maze Behemoth, those are the other notables. Rakdos Drake is good if you want to go Rakdos.
So
I'm
first
not a huge fan of Profit Loss.
No.
I will say that.
really, because it's so much more expensive than Zell's
Yeah,
Persecution.
and I've seen it not do anything more often than not.
Interesting.
I've-
I haven't encountered. Have we encountered it yet in Limited? I don't think we have we?
I've
It's
had
because it kind of spam.
Like you and me
Yeah,
in our
yeah,
drafts, I
it
don't
is
think
kinda
we have.
bad. I've had people, and I don't think that each side is individually bad. I think
No.
waiting to mash them up is when it gets bad.
I think actually Loss is much more useful than
Yeah.
Profit if you want to play one side of it. I can see Loss being really good.
Yeah,
what was
but
that
you
card
can
from?
Profit
What,
attack in.
what was the card from Corset? The Cower and Fear. It's
Yeah.
actually
Yeah,
just
yeah.
isn't it just Cower and Fear?
But
Yeah.
less color intensive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So a less color intensive Cower and Fear. That's good. And Cower and Fear was actually a very highly playable Corset card.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if it's going to be as useful, I guess, in Return to Ravnica block like you said, but
I don't mind this card. I just think that its fuse mode is where they lost it. You know?
and Profit and Loss for audio listeners. 2 mana, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. 3 mana, creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. So fused, 5 mana, your creatures get +1/+1. Your opponent's creatures get -1/-1. And we dropped the name Zell's Persecution. This is a
we
card
should just
from
look that up too.
this is a card from Alara Reborn,
'Cause
and it does this exact
If
effect
you
at
don't
2 mana.
if you don't know about this card, here you go. Because
It does
There
the
it
same
is,
thing
yeah.
at 2 mana. So the fact that it's 3 mana less to do this is, I mean, the funny thing is, it's cheaper than Loss.
yeah, it's like
And it does more than Loss.
it's the same cost as Profit, and it does
As a
like
built-in loss,
vastly
yeah.
more than.
So that is kind of an interesting
Yeah.
interesting aspect.
I
of it.
don't like this card as a way. Like, don't plan on it being like, oh, this is gonna be a blowout, because it never is. I've played around it so many times, and like people go Profit Loss, and I'm like, oh, Far and Away or Turn and Burn you.
Yeah.
You know, like there's just so many ways. Your removal spells usually trump Profit and Loss anyway. I've found.
Okay.
Crisis Incubation is okay. I don't really care for it that much. Spike Jester, if I were to choose something out of this pack, I don't really like anything, honestly.
I'd feel comfortable going. Well, you say what you want first.
I really don't want any of it. I'd take the Windrake probably.
You're just gonna pass it without
Yeah.
taking a pick. I don't think you can do that.
Can I just have the rules and tip card? I'd take the Windrake.
Okay.
I like flying.
And Morgan.
I like Rakdos. And flying's good. Spike Jester seems fun. It's 3/1 for 2 red and a black with haste.
I would have to agree with you. I think I'd probably go the Spike Jester. Even though, like we said, it's a little more difficult to do aggro strategy in this block, Spike Jester makes it a whole lot easier. If you were to pick up, 2 of them or something out of this pack, even if you pick up one of them and you get enough good Rakdos cards from your Return to Ravnica pack, like this alongside your Hellhole Flailer, your Cackler, you can quickly take the game over. Even Shred Freaks and Spike Jesters together, I could see the
Yeah.
hasty deck. There's also Rakdos Drake in this
Yeah,
pack.
there is.
Have you gotten a chance to play with that at
I
all?
have, and it does a lot of work. It's a little undercosted or like
Underpowered for its cost,
for
yeah.
its cost when it's not unleashed.
It's a 3 mana 1/2 flyer with Unleash, so
Yeah.
potentially a 2/3 can't block flyer.
But with like Deviant Glee, it's
Yeah.
pretty
Quickly becomes
pretty
a
solid.
evasive good beater.
Yeah.
Or like even a Pursuit of Flight,
Yeah.
just to make it huge.
So it's not terrible. I'd probably go with the Spike Jester though, just because I feel like it is better for its cost and it can block,
Mhm.
which is something that not a lot of.
And it blocks
Rakdos
well.
Yeah,
3 power, 2 mana is a good blocker.
yeah.
So
After getting in there
yeah.
for 3 the first time, you can hold it back to trade with their huge guys.
I'm surprised Jake said he didn't like any of the cards in here. Crisis Incubation is an excellent card. Have you played with this
I
yet?
am not.
It's like a 4 mana arrest, sort of, but it has the perk of also being a pump spell if you want it to be. So Crisis Incubation is a 4 mana aura. Enchanted creature can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. You pay 3 mana, and you return it to your hand, and the creature gets 2 +1/+1 counters. So I like Crisis Incubation a lot, but I think I'd have to agree with you. I'd probably first pick the Spike Jester, just because it blocks well, and it's an excellent attacker. But not the Blood Scrivener, however. So Blood Scrivener is it's a new zombie, and it's a new rare zombie at that. And actually, 2-mana zombies are a luxury in themselves. But the problem with this one is it's a tad bit underwhelming, especially a rare. It's a 2-mana 2/1. If you would draw a card while you have no cards in hand, instead draw 2 cards and lose 1 life. I would have liked this at a bear, don't you think? I would have liked this as a 2-mana 2/2 with that ability.
They're
at
trying
rare.
to like call back to Bob, like the
that sort of effect.
Yeah, just the look of it. I feel like that's what they were going for with this.
I can see that. But not seeing much constructed play at all right now that I know of, even in the zombie decks. In fact, the zombie decks that I've seen are running both Knight of Infamy and Kill Thrill Assassin, believe it or not. The ones that I saw yesterday, it states, over this card. So they're not, I'd rather have Death Touch so I can attack in. I'd rather have, what was the other card I just said?
Knight of Infamy.
I'd rather have Pro White
Yeah,
against Azorius Charm is so important, and the Exalted.
Yeah.
Okay, so another Renounce the Guilds. Not the most exciting rare. We've also got another Far and Away, Gruul War Chant, Flux Charger.
This is small set though.
Yeah.
You still, so I'd probably first pick. We've got Gruul War Chant, Far and Away, Flux Charger. So really, it's do you like the Gruul? Do you want to go creature? I'd like to beat you down, Gruul War Chant, or would you like to go spell, Far and Away, good value? I don't know. Well, let's check out the rest of the pack, see what sort of signal we have. We have Rakdos Drake, Riot Piker, Runner's Bane, Opal Lake Gatekeeper, Leave Decree, Pilfered Plans, Crawl Warrior, Gruul War Chant, Far and Away, Flux Charger. A lot of pretty much all over the board sort of spells. I guess you could argue that there's a tad bit of both. There's a tad bit of both a Dimir signal with the Pilfered Plan and the Runner's Bane, and a Gruul signal with the Riot Piker.
People don't pick
Crawl Warrior. Well, people definitely pick the Crawl Warrior.
Yeah.
But so it's really, for me, it's between Flux Charger 2, since there's not much of an is it signal in here. But I think I like it. It's less powerful in my mind than both Far and Away and Gruul War Chant. I personally would go Gruul War Chant.
I think I would too.
Okay, and Morgan?
I think control is actually a pretty viable strategy in this format. So I'd probably pick Far and Away and a bunch of counter spells and have fun.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you can pick up more than one Far and Away, I got 2 Far and Aways and a Turn and Burn in my sealed. I was like, and like multiple Fatal Fumes. I was good to go. I was taking
absolutely.
people down.
And I think the argument can be made for either one. Like I said, it's like, see, that's kind of like a mood setter for your draft, though. Like, or it's gonna like decide what your future picks are if you're marrying that pick, where it's like Far and Away. Okay, I want some really good, powerful spells to back this up, or Gruul War Chant. Okay, I need some nice, cheap, efficient creatures that I can get into.
Yeah.
So it's really like
Far and Away is still playable. Like, if you go into Azorius, you can still play tempo game with it, with Dramatic Rescue as, like, other ways to get the far part of it, Just doing the bounce is still relevant sometimes.
Okay, I agree.
Alright. We have Gaze of Granite, Down and Dirty.
Show the rare to the camera.
Yeah.
Not the Rosen.
You can learn about Ralzeric.
It's always exciting to show the rare cards, though, to the camera. All right, Gaze of Granite.
We got it.
Gaze of Granite, seeing a little bit of constructed play, believe it or not. I played against the weirdest damn deck yesterday. It was green-black value. It was like Geralt's Messenger, Disciple of Bolus. Then it was like Devour Fleshes, Victim of Nights. And then it was Gaze of Granite post sideboard. I lost. I feel like I actually had a great match against it, but I ended up losing against it. It was running Mutilates too. It was a really strange deck. Vampire Nighthawk. It was basically like all of the value from green and black that you have, but mostly black to make the Mutilates work and stuff like that. But Gaze of Granite, also pretty interesting card to have in that list. And actually, it was a cool play when he did Disciple on his Geralt's Messenger. A lot of value is to be had there, because it was like, my guy undies, you lose another 2. I gain 3, I draw 3. So it was a lot that he got for the 4 mana there. Disciple is from Core Set. It's a 4 mana, 2/1, sack another creature you control, draw cards equal to its power, gain life equal to its power.
I kind of wish they hadn't put the another creature, because then you could have
Sacked itself, yeah, I agree. That would have been kind of cool. They just didn't want to.
Because then it's not even better than Cyan Blood, is it? Like.
No, but that doesn't matter, because it would still be versatile where you could choose to pick if you wanted itself or others.
I guess.
Yeah.
Isn't it draw cards equal to its power, gain life equal to its toughness?
No, power.
It's all both?
I believe so.
Or it's both power?
Yep. Draw X cards where X is that you gain X life, and draw X cards where it's that creature's power.
I don't even think that's. Oh, I mean, they should have changed the power and toughness on this creature.
To a 2/2 or what?
2/3. I don't even think that's or 3/2
because it's a rare.
And you can't even sacrifice itself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It is the disciple of Bolus, and it can't even kill an augur of Bolus. You know?
It's squishy,
Yeah.
to use LOL terms. Okay.
It's not bad still. Like, you gotta
Yeah,
let
it's
value
not.
out.
I don't particularly like Gaze of Granite in Limited. It's a little too overcosted to be effective. Like, think about it. You want to kill their, 3 and 4 drops? Do you have access to 6 and 7 mana all the time? Absolutely not. At least Merciless Eviction is like...
I will always kill your stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you have the fattest creatures in the world. I guess it should be noted, Gaze of Granite would be an excellent card to have against the token strategy, since it would literally be like a 3 mana board wipe.
Yeah.
If I'm passing Gaze of Granite, I might be a little bit more
Hesitant
wary
to take,
about Alive and Well.
which is also in the pack, as well as Jellin Sphinx.
Yeah, and I'd probably take the Jellin Sphinx.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's also like Higher Torture.
Interesting. Jake?
Ooh, no, Down and Dirty is terrible.
Down and Dirty is actually one of the few cards that I feel like doesn't synergize particularly well with itself, which is really strange, because most of the other ones, there's an argument to be made how it works together, but this one's pretty strange. It's 4 mana, target player discards 2 cards, 3 mana, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. It's just too expensive. If it was Mind Rot on one side,
it's not even that it's too expensive. It is that it doesn't
synergize with itself.
So like you look at it and you're like, what? I don't understand.
It's not like you're gonna make yourself discard to get a card back. So really, it's like I mean,
but you can't even target the one you would discard anyway.
It actually does make sense how it synergizes. What it's supposed to be doing is you're taking away you're gaining card advantage by taking away cards in their hand, and then you're even getting more card advantage by returning a card from your graveyard to your hand.
7 is a lot for that.
It's expensive. I agree.
When
it
you
is
think of
expensive
how much
for what it is.
mind culling cost, and like that was you draw 2, they discard 2, you know. And
it does seem very overpriced.
Down. The problem is Down is too expensive.
It should have been a Mind Rot.
Yeah.
This should have been Toil and Trouble's cost total. The 6 mana.
Yeah, and
this would have felt a lot more right at 6 mana.
Yeah, it is really funny that they decided to do Toil and Trouble with Trouble as a 3 mana card when that's typically been a 4 mana effect for Trouble.
Yeah.
You know.
So they made the one side of it cheaper than the original card that only had...
They were instants, so it makes sense on that level, but not exactly when you're thinking about Down. Like, it only converted its, rarity.
Down and Dirty would have been a little bit more interesting at instant, I think. Because I've always been interested in instant speed discard. There's only very limited examples historically of that. The one that comes to mind is, which charm is it? It's like a black charm that makes them discard a card at instant speed.
Funeral Charm.
Yeah, and that's
always been really effective.
Yeah, and that's one of the few examples of instant speed discard.
They could have done Down as a coercion effect, maybe, where you look at their hand and choose a card and they discard it, you know, and then I would have been a little more okay with this effect.
So Morgan said Jellin Sphinx, and what did you say?
I think I'm going to go with Jellin Sphinx, too.
I could agree to that. I also like it Alive and Well because it keeps you a little more open, but I think you guys are right. Jellin Sphinx is just... I've really been impressed by it. It's difficult to take care of. It does a lot for, with your flyer strategy. It's going to do so much.
If you also look at the rest of the cards in that package, don't think I saw
much of an Azorius Signal.
Yeah, no, there's one.
Opal Lake.
The Guildgate Opal Lake Gatekeepers.
Wake the Reflections is not something you necessarily want to be like, oh, I need these.
For my Bronzebeak Moa.
Alright, so we're down to the last 3 packs.
I need to somehow make a token.
And unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to have time to talk about M14, but we're definitely going to be doing a draft at the end of this thing here. So hopefully all this practice with these 19 booster packs is going to have us well prepared to make a good decision.
Okay. Plasm Capture, not good.
Here's our rare. We opened that earlier.
Spike Jester, Rot Farm, Skeleton, and Warped Physique at Uncommon. Crawl Warrior, Hazda Squads. Or Snare Squad, Maze Behemoth. Those would be the ones that would be in the running, I think, for first pick.
And what would your choice be?
I I don't even know that I'd pick Warped Physique unless I was for sure in Demir. But, like, I guess you guys really like Spike Jester, but I'm not as big a fan of it.
I mostly like it because it's a 2-power 3 or 2-mana 3-power blocker or attacker.
I would have been,
which is just really efficient.
So much happier with this card had it been in Return to Ravnica.
And it is seeing constructed play. Keep that in mind too. I have seen it popping up in constructed. It's in that. There's a new Jund aggro list, and it works really well alongside.
Nice.
It works really well alongside Baral's because it's
yeah.
it's a really cheap way to get the counters on your when it dies, and it's getting in early.
I don't deny that it's a good card. This is not the strategy I like to play. That's the problem I have.
Okay,
with it.
I can see that.
I'd probably take the Snare Squad.
Okay, and I wouldn't fault you for that pick either because Snare Squad is less color intensive, so it kind of makes sense in that regard. Morgan, what would you go?
Spike Jester or maybe a Rat Farm Skeleton.
Okay, I think I'd probably go with the Spike Jester. I really like the 2-drops, even though we've said the format is a little bit harder to do a consistent aggro deck. I still like the Spike Jester. I haven't gotten a ton of chances to play it in limited either.
What is that in the picture? Is that like
I know.
an alligator or Krasis? Or...
I don't know. That is strange.
I was trying to look at it here. So it looks like I can't really tell what's going on. Either he's feeding himself to it or
I don't know what kind of creature that is.
Maybe
So-
it's part of the show.
yeah. So like he's missing an arm, and like at the end of his
wow, I
arm,
didn't even
it's a
realize that.
chain. So I don't know what that has to do with anything yet, but I think it's probably he's just there for the show.
Okay.
Like I don't know if he's battling that or the Rakdos are weird. Who knows?
Ooh, I got a foil Sin Collector.
That's neat.
That's
That is
pretty.
neat.
Probably get a couple dollars for that.
Here, maybe you can tell.
And the rare is Vorel of the Hullclade. So this is probably the least interesting in my mind. What are these? The commanders for each guild or whatever?
They're the guild runners.
Just the guild runners. He's fine though. He's a 3-mana, 1/4. You pay Cynic colors, and you get to put a +1/+1 counter on each.
No, double the number of counters. For each counter on something, put an additional counter on it of that type.
Okay, and it works for all permanents,
Yeah.
so it's versatile. It's interesting.
Except
Very
for
interesting card.
Planeswalkers.
Works with Gideon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they did specify artifact, creature, and land, so it didn't interact with planeswalkers.
It's not that
Good to
bad
know.
with Gideon.
There's also a Maw of the Obsidian, which has been hyped quite a bit. I've had a lot of people telling me that I'm passing Maw and I'm crazy, and I mean, I haven't given this card enough of a chance. It's cool. It's a 5-mana 3/3 Thrall, sack a creature. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end turn. I see where it's valuable. What it does is it puts your opponent in a difficult position to use combat tricks on your turn, because then you're just going to be like, oh, you're going to kill that creature? Well, then I'll just sack it, and all of a sudden my attackers are stronger. So I see why it's good. And a sack outlet is just always good to have, because there's quite a few steal effects in this format.
Yeah.
We have Traitor's Instinct, we have from Gatecrash, which is it's active treason, right?
Yeah.
And then there might even be one more, I just can't think of it.
Smelt War or
No,
whatever.
Smelt Ward Gatekeeper.
the-
That is one.
The one where you, it's the split card.
There's a split one that steals too.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Capture and release. Release.
Oh, catch and release.
Catch and release.
You're right. That one is fairly color intensive to work
Yeah.
with Maw, but you're right.
But
we just named 4 cards in this block that steal, so
But
having
Maw-
a sack outlet is very
Sack
good at that.
outlets also counter cipher cards that target something you control.
Yeah,
So Hands of Binding.
there was a game where Jake and I had a Cartel Aristocrat, and we had someone play Hands of Binding, I think maybe on the Cartel Aristocrat or another creature we
Yeah.
control, and we're like, hey, because he had a flyer, let's just sack that creature that he's targeting.
Yeah.
And
then
completely, it basically...
you don't get the cipher if they're
You-
casting it
yeah.
for the first time.
So you trade your creature for the Cipher spell, which arguably could be worse, but you're still getting rid of that
Yeah,
the
you
entire...
never have to deal with that cipher effect
Again.
again.
Yep.
And it only works if they're targeting only one of your creatures or only creatures you control. So like Hidden Strings, if they have to be targeting both 2 things you control, and you have to sack both of those to stop it.
So what would be your first pick, Jake? You have our rare was
there's
Varel.
Carusa.
We also have Corrose de Gorgon and Maw of the Obsidian. as the notable cards. There's also Weapon Surge,
I'm
which
gonna
we haven't.
try Maw, because I would dare somebody to go take a profit loss and make it work.
I'm interested in that as well. I was actually going to say the same thing. I might actually pick the Maw of the Crows to Gorgon until I've learned. I kind of want to learn some more about Maw of the Abzadot, how much I like it, its role in this format, and all of that. What do you think, Morgan?
Maw has a lot more possibilities than Kurosto, I think.
You have to build around this
Yeah.
a lot harder than you do that.
Yeah, for all you have to do for Maw is play a bunch of
Play
Yeah,
creatures.
play more creatures, yeah. Oh! I wasn't going to do that.
All right,
so-
Morgan, you get the final pack here before we start the draft.
So many packs.
I'm going to make sure I've got a Return to Ravnica booster here.
Oh my goodness, Abzadot's Aid.
Holy hell.
Yeah, right? So this one has, like, for its uncommons, Blaze Commando, Far and Away, and Tristani Summoner. And I have gotten a chance to play with Tristani Summoner, and it's pretty sweet.
Yeah. It's a very good card.
Rather than putting, like, all of your eggs in one 7/7 basket, you get, like, 3 other creatures as well as a Tristani Summoner to evade, like, Devour Flesh or even Far and Away. Although Far and Away is another one of the cards that we got. And fun fact, Tristani Summoner makes our little Chocobo really, really
Yeah, huge.
That's true. And actually, Jake and I just recently played a foil Trustani Summoner, and I'll tell you, it's really cool online when you play a Trustani Summoner foil and get 3 foil tokens.
Yes.
It was really cool. And actually, we just had a guy, we top decked it and played it, and the guy was just like, okay, scoop.
It's awesome because in the background you see the knight, the rhino, and the centaur.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
All chilling
That is
back
interesting.
Just their silhouettes.
And
So, yeah. So, wait, what did you say your first pick was? I'm sorry.
Tristani Summoner.
Okay.
And then
And, oh, no, go ahead.
it's also good because having Tristani Summoner this early allows you to pick up, like, populate cards in Selesnya
Yeah.
later.
Even going Wake the Reflections out of these, like, they're not totally dead to you
Yeah.
now.
Okay,
If you
Jake.
pick this first. I think I'd probably also take the Summoner. There's a pretty good amount of good blue stuff out of this pack, too. So the Far and Away...
Feels more dangerous to play.
Not necessarily dangerous, but
Just
I don't
less-
think I'd get the full value. And letting somebody else go, oh, God, what do I want to choose, from this pack,
I guess.
blue-wise.
I could see that. I'd probably still take the Far and Away.
It's,
I'm never.
We've seen so many of this card today.
It's true, but it's just it's indicating to us how powerful we think it is in the format, you know? Okay.
I think it's funny how many of those Far and Away, in particular, we opened out of
Versus
these packs.
Tristani Summoner.
Yeah, and versus some of the other ones, too. Even Down and Dirty, which is thankful, but we only opened one of those.
All right. So now we're going to start our full block draft here. Got all that practice in? Making all those
Opening
decisions?
back.
We opened, I think, 19 packs or something like that. So hope you enjoyed that.
That was fun. I've opened 9 packs in a row recently because I played in that open trial and I got like packs from that, and then I played in a booster draft that like right directly following it. So I like opened the packs I won and it was awesome. I don't tend to open packs recently unless I
Yeah.
get them. So.
I can't even remember the last time I opened a pack online. It's been years
Oh goodness.
since I've opened a pack online because I'm always just drafting
Yeah.
with them. So
Well, that's what you do.
yeah. All right, we're just about to start here. Just about to start. Any minute now. Any second now. And
I'm surprised there aren't more people who want to draft.
on a Sunday, I don't know. Is today something special? Maybe everyone's watching the Pro
Super
Tour
Bowl.
Dragons Maze.
Oh, never mind.
Wrong time of year, I
Yeah.
believe.
And wrong group of people.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
actually,
there's actually quite a few
yeah.
sports fans that
there are Magic sports
play
fans
Magic.
for sure.
You know, there's actually a surprising number of jocks. Not to get on my high horse here, but there's quite a few jocks that play Magic.
Ooh, ooh.
All right, so our rare here
Which
is
one?
actually a mythic that we have not opened yet. It is the
Progenitor Mimic.
progenitor
So
mimic. It is a phenomenally strong card, and I'm
There's
almost
only Beetle Form Mage.
I'm almost certainly first picking it. Unfortunately, there's also War Leader's Helix, Far and Away. I guess those are the real
Yeah.
powerful
Mimic.
cards here. The Progenitor Mimic is a 6 mana shapeshifter, enters the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, and then it gains at the beginning of your upkeep, except it gains at the beginning of your upkeep. If this creature isn't a token, put a token on the battlefield that's a copy of this creature. Progenitor Mimic is insanely good. Happy to first pick it. It's definitely worthy of a 6-mana clone effect. War Leader's Helix, probably the second most powerful card in this pack, far and away as well. So let's be conscious of this. We're definitely passing a Boros signal. We're definitely passing not necessarily a Dimir signal, but probably a Dimir signal as well. And we're slamming Simic. The nice thing is Progenitor Mimic, for its cost, is extremely splashable. So I don't mind splashing one of those colors. All right, follow-up pick. We have notable cards out of here are Crows to Gorgon, Sin Collector, Maze Glider, Maze Abomination. Lee of Decree is interesting. Boros Guildgate. Maze Glider is very good. I'm not opposed to Sin Collector, even though it's not in of the Progenitor Mimic. I don't necessarily need to marry Progenitor Mimic. It is a very strong card, and I'd love to play it. But if we can't, I'm not going to be heartbroken about it.
I guess I'm
for the Gorgon right now. It feels pretty good
because for Gorgon.
Gorgon feels good because it's in one of the colors that we have with our Mimic. It would be an excellent card to copy. I wouldn't have a problem with that. And copy at every turn sounds obnoxious. Maze Abomination's good. Yeah, I think I'm okay with Gorgon here. It's a really strong card. And if we're already going in Simic, then we should be getting some Evolve counters to use.
Yeah, and Crozeta Gorgon will probably evolve a lot of our creatures too.
Oh yeah, it evolves everything.
So
Gorgon's a solid second pick there. All right, this pack we have a Watery Grave, which actually would work with what we've already got, and it's worth a couple tickets. But we need to look at the other picks here because we have Battering Krasis, which is an evolved creature, which we might actually want here just based on the 2 picks that we already have.
Yeah, Armored Wolf Rider.
Not that Battering
into junk too.
Not that Battering Krasis works particularly well with Progenitor Mimic, but
it doesn't necessarily work badly.
It definitely works well with the Corrosive Gorgon, though. So really, the picks for me are going to be Maze Abomination, Watery Grave, Battering Krasis. Maybe Species Gorger, but more likely those 3. So what do you guys...
Could you Species Gorger and copy it with Progenitor Mimic?
Yeah. Watery Grave, I'm not opposed to because it's a couple tickets and it helps us fix already, which I do like.
I'd be okay with Watery Grave, I'm going to be honest. Just because...
I don't really like Battering Krasis all that much.
Yeah.
I do like Maze Abomination quite a bit, but I kind of want some tickets and fixing.
I'd kind of like to cut the Evolve.
It was a little too late. We had 3 seconds left. Sorry. It's a little more difficult to do this with 3 people just because there's a lot of discussion to be had. No, it's not your fault. I'm just saying it's a little harder to make quick decisions. Ubulsar Gatekeepers, I'm liking here. Hidden Strings, Pilfered Plans are the real notable cards. I kind of want the Gatekeepers here. They're a good blocker. We could definitely pick up some Guild Gates. We're going to want Guild Gates if we're going
Hidden
3 color.
Strings could be really good for us since we do have at least 1 Death Toucher right now. But yeah, let's pick up the Gatekeepers.
Okay. Next pack, we have another Gatekeepers. We have a Rakdos Guildgate. We have a Carnage Gladiator, Nivix Cyclops, Pilfered Plans, Hidden Strings. This is like the millionth Lee of Decree we've seen. I'm kind of for another Gatekeepers here.
Let's just pick up.
All right. I mean, they're removal, right? I mean, why not?
We can splash the blue then.
Okay.
We can be Golgari.
Golgari, and then we may just get our picks by the first pack.
It's a million Nivix Cyclops.
Okay, in this pack, it appears the choices are really just Golgari, Cluestone, and Hired Torture. I think I would just go with the Golgari, Cluestone, get a little fixing. It'd be nice if we could get a Guildgate. What were you going to think?
Not opposed to Torture.
Yeah.
All of our guys are low power, high defense.
Cluestone's never terribly exciting anyway. Okay, I'll do Hired Torture.
There's a Dimir
wow, an Armed and Dangerous.
Wow,
that's super late.
An Armed and Dangerous this late should really.
Can we just hate it?
It doesn't even make sense. Well, there's nothing really for. Well, Maze Glider is actually pretty good too. We don't have a ton of multicolor that works with it yet. Crows of Gorgon is an exception that's excellent with Maze Glider. It's also Dimir Cluestone for us. I think we're just taking the Armed and Dangerous, maybe even making it work if we can pick up
at least another Death Touch. Or
if we see Rakdos Guildgate, if we see any of the other Guild Gates, because we're just going to want to play them for the Gatekeepers. It really doesn't make sense that Armed and Dangerous is remaining in that pack. It's easily a first pick. Maybe people are just super underrating
Simic
it.
Cluestone here.
Yep. Simic Cluestone, Rakdos Cluestone. Simic Cluestone would make more sense since we're Omega Light Blue at the moment, and between the Watery Grave and the Simic Cluestone would help us a lot in playing it.
There.
Yeah. Simic Cluestone. Okay. Next pack, we have the Rakdos Cluestone here, so now we can turn on our Armed and Dangerous, also ramp us a little bit. There's also not much else for us here. Pilfered Plans, potentially.
But, like, I feel like Pilfered Plans, there were a lot of them. And if the person is passing, like, if they're being passed now, then there's a good chance of getting them if we thought they were good.
And blue is our splash anyway, so it might be difficult to play it. Let's just take the Cluestone. Alright, so we got a Boros Guildgate here. I don't really like it that much since the white doesn't really do anything for us. But
the red barely does anything for us. There's also Maze Abomination.
Alright, I think we take the Maze Abomination then. It's going to be unfortunate if we can't turn on the Gatekeepers.
Maze Abomination works well with Dangerous without the...
It works well with, like, a lot of our guys. And we're going to definitely see some more multicolor in the next few picks. It's just a solid 6-drop.
I just want Death Touch.
Yeah, I would like some Guildgates. It'd be really nice if we could pick some up. Let's see.
Nobody wants white, huh?
It does appear that white is the open color based on this, but it's not like Lee of Decree is a super high pick for people.
Yeah, but
anyway.
even Armored Wolf Rider is a 5th to last pick.
I kind of like
Vital Burst?
Yeah.
Not likely playing it, but we'll put it in, or just take it for now. We can take the Mutant's Prey in case we get some good Simic out of the next few packs. Also, remember, this doesn't work with just Evolved Creatures. It also works with Burst of Strength and Common Bond. I guess Common Bond we're not going to be able to play, but Scavenge, excellent. Yeah, Scavenge is actually a really important one. Hidden Strings now, just to diversify, pick it up, get a Cypher spell. Okay, to Deathless, pretty hard to play in Limited, and Constructed for that matter. On the other hand, pretty easy to play in EDH. All right,
very easy.
Too easy.
So now we're on to the Gate Crash pack. I like where we're at right now. We've picked up a solid Mythic first pick, and we have pretty good in-game plan already, and relatively good fixing already.
So yeah, now all we need is Gates.
So it appears that we are a bug deck, or trying to be a bug deck.
So we want Simic
out of this pack, and Dimir.
And even Gruul,
Assemble
possibly.
the Legion.
Open Assemble the Legion, which is probably one of the best limited cards you can get. We also have the Simic Guildgate, which is going to turn on both of our Ulsar Gatekeepers, as well as fix us.
Doesn't Golgari Charm also have Enchantment Destruction mode, too?
Yes.
I feel like let's pick up the Guildgate here.
I'm not really comfortable picking up the Assemble the Legion since we have one potential red spell and 0 actual white spells.
Yeah.
If we'd gone any sort of direction that made Assemble more likely here, I would love to pick it because, like you said, it's an extremely powerful spell. But I feel like for what our deck needs, we kind of need these gates. I really don't like first picking gates. It's never exciting.
Yeah, that's nobody's favorite.
I'd like the Slaughterhorn, but doesn't seem. I feel like the gate's more important here. Let's just pick up the fixing and the fuel for our gatekeepers. Okay, second pick, we have a Dimir Guildgate, which is also on color with us. I'm not opposed to getting that now, but there's also, unfortunately, Screecher. Not unfortunate, but there is a Screecher in this pack, which is probably the best.
It's the best
creature
pick we
think
can
of.
get here, I think.
There's also Ooze Flux, which works ridiculously well with like Cloudfin Raptor, and it's actually infinite with Cloudfin Raptor, and infinite with Renegade Krasis. Not Renegade, Elusive Krasis as well. So I think we take the Screecher over the Dimir Guildgate, unfortunately, because I really would like this Guildgate.
There's
but
still chances to pick up.
Screecher is very strong. All right, Stomping Ground. You know, Stomping Ground is actually playable in here too. There's also Pit Fight, Nimbus Swimmer, Greenside Watcher,
Ivy Lane Denizen works really well with Progenitor Mimic. If
and Crows to Gorgon as well.
And
so that's actually an engine that we could take.
As much as Stomping Grounds is great, I feel like we want to push a real strategy and let's get our Ivy Lane.
Yeah, let's get some more playable. So Ivy Lane, because of the synergies it has Progenitor Mimic and Crows to Gorgon, I can definitely get behind picking that here. See, the really, really crappy part is we have almost 0 green creatures, so we're really going to have to focus fire on them this pack and the next one if we want to make this Ivy Lane worth anything.
Yeah.
Nimbus Swimmer is also good, but blue is sort of, not blue. Wait, is blue our splash? Maybe it is.
Yeah.
So
but
blue
Nimbus
is,
Swimmer does work well with Karazda Guildmate, or Gorgon too.
Well, also Nimbus Swimmer is probably one of the more splashable cards. Pit Fight is also remarkably strong, even especially based on what we already have. But let's take the Denizen. I like your logic with what it already interacts with what we have. All right, so next pick we have a Dimir Guildgate option now. There's also Frilled Oculus, Pit Fight, Slaughterhorn, Glaring Spotlight, which you can mention. I think I kind of want the Dimir Guildgate here, even though Frilled Oculus and Slaughterhorn are very good.
Yeah, we actually need to guarantee our gates.
I just want to make sure that we get 3. Once we get 3, I won't think about them anymore. But
I feel like
let's
we can
turn
still actually get a pick out of this pack too, possibly. Yeah. Even a Naturalize is fine.
I'm not 100% comfortable. I mean, possibly we could wield a Dimir Guildgate, but Gates, it looked like Gates were sniped out of that early first pack, and those are guaranteed to have a Gate, so it looks like people are actively going for Gates right now. So let's pick up the Dimir one.
When so much for removal is gate based, I think that's smart.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Burst of Strength here I really like because we have Crow's Gorgon as well as, wasn't there, Mutant's Prey. So it potentially lets us play Mutant's Prey. There's not a ton else for us here. Corpse Blockade's fine. Syndicate Enforcer's probably better in full block than it was in Triple K Crash. Mm-hmm. Incursion Specialist is also fine. But we're splash blue still. Drop
creatures too. So let's pick up the Burst.
Okay, I'm happy with Burst. We're a little bit creature light though, but
Corpse Blockade is good with the Mortis Strider that we passed earlier.
Yeah. Let's take Burst. I like it. All right, now we have Greenside Watcher. We have 2 gates, so that's a reasonable pick. It's also Syndicate Enforcer. We're a little bit light on creatures, and
we want to be getting a 3rd gate anyway.
And we need green creatures for our Ivy Link Denizen, so there's just a ton of argument for Greenside Watcher here. Okay, so we have another Burst. We also have Death Cult Rogue, which I do like a lot, especially since we look like we can easily play double black. It's evasive. So Burst versus Death Call Rogue. I think we're creature light enough where I'd like the Death Call Rogue. We could still potentially get another Cypher spell. We already have Hidden Strings.
Yeah. I don't like playing tons of bursts anyway.
I like it if we have a lot of creatures, but
there's one.
We don't. So it looks like we can get another Burst here. There's also Armored Transport, which doesn't really look that good in this deck. So let's take the Burst.
Yeah.
Turn on all of our cool spells. Smite is pretty good, but unfortunately not super playable with what we've got. It's also Skullcrack, Paranoid Delusions is on color.
Yeah, let's take the Perimeter, actually.
Alright, I don't think we're likely playing it, but we can pick it up. Midnight Recovery is pretty cool with our Extort creature.
With our Progenitor Mimic. Just see that back.
Illness in the Ranks is a good sideboard against the Selesnya token strategy. But let's take the Recovery because we could actually main deck it. All right, Gateway Shade here. Actually, Gateway Shade actually good for what we. Yeah, Gateway Shade a creature as well as we have a couple gates to make it more powerful. So probably playing it most likely.
Ooh, Naturalize.
All right, Naturalize is a good sideboard. We're gonna take it over a Foil Mountain.
Assemble the Legion.
So somebody's definitely in a Boros strategy with a symbol, and I hope that we don't play it against the first round because we don't look like we're terribly.
8-mana Hydroform Progenitor Mimic.
We don't look like we're terribly fast.
I get a free land every turn.
So last few picks, just a 10th Street Market into a land. Okay, so we're moving into our final pack. This is where we're really gonna want to clean up on the Golgari cards out of here, and we need like 4 more creatures, and we need to get 1 more gate.
Yeah,
we absolutely
at least 1. I would like 2.
I'd like 2 more gates. I'll be satisfied with playing both our guys with 1 more.
Oh, Golgari Guildgate.
Okay, so this pack has Golgari Guildgate, Stab Wound, Cacklers,
Golgari Decoy.
Yep, Decoy's very good.
Azorius Charm.
Stealer Secrets is actually fine, but we're still trying to be light blue. Let's take the Golgari Guildgate. I don't really like it that much, but once again, these gatekeepers are very important since they're actual removal. And Stab Wound is very good too. Stab Wound
that's what I was saying. Like, we're stalling a lot already. I think Stab Wound would probably be better, even though you're taking it over a gate. It's more removal and life drain at the same time.
I guess you're right.
Because we're not going to be attacking a lot.
Yeah, I guess Stab Wound does take out things like
we have all
Wolf Rider,
and we have all these 2/4s and high toughness blockers.
As long as we have 3 toughness, Stab Wound is actually that much more relevant.
Okay, taking the Stab Wound over the Golgari Guildgate. A little bit worrisome if we can't find another gate, but we'll try our best.
Axebane.
All right, Axebane Guardian here is going to help us fix and ramp. There's also...
We already have 1 defender also.
Not much else for us here, actually. Deviant Glee, but this doesn't really look like that sort of deck. What was our other defender? Oh, we have the Hired Torturer. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I'm satisfied. Let's do Axebane.
Axebane works well with Progenitor Mimic.
Next pick, we've got Gatekeeper
Slumber.
Vine.
Hey, it's the Risen Sanctuary. That's what I was.
Oh
thinking.
yeah.
Okay, but Gatekeeper Vine might.
I actually really like the Gatekeeper Vine
Yeah,
because we
we
have
need
the
that.
double Gatekeeper, so that way we can
We
actually.
really need that.
All right, so let's pick up the Gatekeeper Vine here. There's also Slum
Slum
Reaper,
Reaper's too
Chorus
bad,
of
but-
Might, both of which are very playable in here.
But actually,
no, not Vassal Soul, I guess.
Gatekeeper gives us something to play
Yeah.
with in like before the Slum Reaper comes out.
Yep,
We can be fine with that.
And Gatekeeper's a defender. It works
Mhm.
amazing with Axebane and our Hired Torturer sort of stall plan.
Yeah.
I think Morgan made a good call with the Stab Wound, actually, because we have a lot of high toughness guys, and actually Stab Wound alongside Hired Torturer feels really good.
Mhm.
It's like side blasting them every turn. All right, looks like a lot of white
Stone
spells.
Fair.
We kind of knew white was open from this direction, but there's not much we can do about it. I think you're right. We take the Stone Fair. We get another creature. We can actually play its ability. And Stone Fair, although fairly unexciting in triple return, I feel like this card gets better in full block.
It's a green creature too.
It's cool alongside
Yeah.
Burst of Strength. It's cool alongside Ivy Lane Denizen. I
There's
like
also
it.
Common Bond here that works well. I mean,
I wish we could make Common Bond work because it interacts well with our deck, but we're just not in white. So let's take the Stone Fair pretty happily.
yeah.
All right, we get an Azorius Guildgate here. I know it doesn't seem exciting.
Could do Xanakev Locust too.
Xanakev Locust I think is better just because we're splashing the Guildgate. There's also Towering Indrik, but because of the scavenge effect, like you say, I think that's pretty important. Because we've got the Crows of Gorgon and the what was the other card that interacts with it again? What do we want counters again?
Stonefair Crocodile is really good with counters.
Yeah.
Group Roustabout is good too here. But I think Xanakev Locust is the best.
Yeah, and unfortunately the Unleashed creature's kind of, it's not that it's anti-synergy, it just doesn't work as well as you want it to with the scavenge strategy, because it's like...
No, it works better
you know.
with the Gorgon, though. If you have multiple Gorgons...
Yeah, you're right.
it's
We
really
actually
good.
did that.
Yeah.
We did that, which was kind of cool. But let's take the Locust.
Unleash it, surprise block with it, yeah.
Okay. Dramatic
Terrace
Rescue
Worm.
is late. I wish we could play it. It's a little too pricey. The only thing really on color for us is the Terrace Worm, and it's totally playable. I'm cool with it. So let's take the Terrace Worm. It's not an exciting 7-drop, but with the amount of ramp we have, we can totally make it work.
There's
your
Golgari.
Golgari Charm.
There's also Monitor
so we've
here,
got
too.
Golgari Charm, Civic Saber. Doesn't look very good in this deck.
Is it set?
Monitor is good. We can't play the Staticaster. I'm cool with the Golgari Charm here. It's actually a pretty useful spell.
Yeah, regenning our creatures.
Regen is
really
very good.
Mind Rat.
Mind Rot.
I don't mind Mind Rot, actually.
All right. Could play it. Like we said, more playable.
Oh, Selesnya Guildgate.
More playable in full block
What?
I'd grab the Guildgate.
than it is here. Yeah, we're gonna take the Guildgate and play it. Seems weird because we're not, in white at all. But keep in mind we have a Greenside Watcher, we have 2 Volsar Gatekeepers,
Yeah.
and we have the Gatekeeper Vine. Not that you need to search up a
I can't
gate
believe
with
there's
the
an
Gatekeeper Vine,
Azorius
but
Charm in this pack.
maybe no one's in Azorius. I don't know. But we have enough gates. That's the good news. Nothing very good
Nobody's
here.
playing white.
Could take the downsize. It's actually a reasonable trick we could sideboard into potentially because we have such good blockers.
Otherwise, Cremate's
Yeah,
just
I was
really
actually
good.
thinking
All right.
Cremate was fine.
Cremate's actually decent against this scavenge strategy, but I've never actually sideboarded into it.
Risen Sanctuary.
Potentially, we could play the Risen Sanctuary actually pretty easily on the back of, if you think about the white that we have access to, it's Gate Creeper, Selesnya Guildgate, and Axebane, so it's possible. Not likely that we play it since it's probably unnecessary,
It's the
but
best card we
Yeah.
we'll take it. We were kind of passing some Ethereal Armors. Maybe we're better off hating them, but it's better to take a card for your sideboard
Let's
than
do
it is to
Destroy
hate a
the
card.
Evidence.
Yeah,
Okay.
do it.
Because it does seem like it's a set where people could be.
Oh, Axebane Stag. That plays better than our Risen
than
Sanctuary.
splashing.
Selesnya Sanctuary.
So white was the open color in pack 3 and 1.
It was the open
but
color all around.
but I'm still really happy with the sheer strength of our creatures that we did end up with, and we probably don't even need to play the Clue Stones at this point. In fact, I'm gonna just go out on a limb and say we don't need to play the Clue Stones. We have the Axebane.
Do we have a Golgari one?
a Guildgate?
No, Cluestone. No, we got a Rakdos one.
No, and we don't need it because we have the Axebane, so we can still play Armed and Dangerous.
Okay.
Let's put in our good spells for now. Spells we for sure want. Maybe not the Midnight Recovery, but we'll put it in for now. I will say the Maze Abomination looks a little less exciting
Yeah.
here, but the nice thing about Maze Abomination is it's awesome on its own.
Yeah, it's
It's
already
prob-
got
it's-
that touch.
Yeah. and it's a very good power and toughness. Maybe play the Meet and Spray. We'll keep it open. I don't think we're doing we're not exactly a Fido Burst deck.
That's okay.
Still
Somebody else
fine,
isn't
yeah.
playing Fido Burst, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Gary Charm, this thing, definitely this, this. This is actually 23, so this is a deck in itself right here. It's 16 creatures. We have excellent number of gates and removal. I like the way this deck looks. What do you think? And actually, the Gateway Shade just got insane with the amount of gates that we have.
All the gates.
Actually.
I like our fixing quite a bit. We're like we said earlier, we're super light blue. I do still think this is a 17 land deck, although the argument could be made with the Gate Creeper and the Axebane that we possibly are 16. Maybe we don't want to play the Midnight Recovery, and we want to do the Risen Sanctuary instead as just another finisher. I know the white may seem difficult to get, but like I said, we have the Guild Gate, which we can search up with Divine, and we have the Axebane Guardian. So we don't even need to play a white source, and I feel comfortable that we could get it. We have 3 ways to get a white source in our deck already. And how many ways do we have to get the red source for the Armed and Dangerous? Just the
one.
I guess the Gatekeeper Vine can't do it. So really the only way we have it is Axebane for Armed and Dangerous.
Which provides an argument for Midnight Recovery, honestly. If you wanted to play another big creature, play Axebane Stake. Because
Yeah.
then you don't
Have to do the white. I guess that's true. Okay, so let's do the Stag. Typically not exciting in triple return, but who knows? This card probably is a lot better in full block.
It's a 6/7.
When you're ramping into it off an Axebane, I can see that being pretty relevant. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty difficult to kill a 7 toughness creature. All right, so if oh, we have to cut something. I see. Okay. I don't really like cutting the Armed and Dangerous because the thing about it is we can still just do the Dangerous.
Yeah.
I think
know?
that lure effect is amazing. In
Yeah,
limited,
so
no
I think
matter what.
we stick with this, even if we can't make the Armed work. It's still good enough. So we do
And it's
want to
not
make.
even that we can't make it work, just not consistently.
Let's
we
cut
might get it
the
all.
let's cut the
Yeah.
Meet and Spray. It doesn't seem like we can really make it
No.
work, even though we have the double burst. It doesn't seem likely, and we still have enough synergies with the counters and our Crows to Gorgon and stuff
Mhm.
that it doesn't matter. So I really like the way this deck looks. It looks fun and interesting. Splashing blue. This is just straight black. This is the only blue spell we have really. So our mana base is actually really good. We already have how many blue sources? 3.
Yep.
And we already have 2 black
black, 2
sources and 2 green sources. All right, we look very well
Yeah,
fixed.
so you don't need any more blue.
We don't need blue. We don't need red. Okay. So this is 11. It's up either of these. We're mostly black, so I could see that. We do need the double black for Death Cult Rogue. We only need 1 green. We do need the green for our Gatekeeper Vine and our Axebane now, so maybe we want to do... I think this is good.
Yeah.
So this, let me make sure this is the right, this isn't the right amount of lands, is it? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, unfortunately, okay. Maybe we want to even up. So this is 8 black sources, 8 green sources, 2 blue sources, or 3 blue sources. Yeah, this is satisfactory.
That's only 16 lands, though.
Oh, this is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh, you're right. Okay, so let's put in the extra black. All right. Well, I think this is what we're going to run. The final list is 2 Bursts of Strength, Armed and Dangerous, Golgari Charm, Basilica Screecher, Gatekeeper Vine, Greenside Watcher, Stab Wound, Axebane Guardian, Death Cult Rogue, Gateway Shade, Hired Torturer, Stonefair Crocodile, Midnight Recovery, Ivy Lane Denizen, 2 Ubulsar Gatekeeper, Cross to Gorgon, Maze Abomination, Progenitor Mimic, Xanacave Locust, Axebane Stag, Terrasworm. All right, that's going to be it for this podcast. If you want to watch the actual matches for this, I'm going to be posting that. We got a nice lengthy podcast this time around. Morgan, thanks a lot for coming on this podcast with us and helping us draft and everything and discussing Dragon's Maze with us. I'm really happy that we finally got a guest on our video podcast, so feel free to come back anytime too. I think people maybe are just getting... Jake and I fear is like that people are getting burned out on us talking all the time, so we really do want to make it a more like guest intensive sort of podcast. But you know, it's hard to get guests on here, so I'm really happy that you came out. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And for everybody else, email me at mortarpod@seemsgoodmagic.com for any feedback on the podcast, any sort of events you want to see me make decks for and play. I've heard the people want me to make a block deck. I'm looking into that, see how expensive it is. It's probably fairly cheap. You can also catch Jake and I live streaming Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central Time I want to give a shout out to Andrew Liebler for making an awesome overlay for us for our live stream. It looks really nice, really cool. He did an excellent job, and I bought him into a draft as to say thank you because I thought he did such a good job. I think that's it. Follow us on Twitter at SeemsGoodMagic. And check out Morgan's drafts on SeemsGoodMagic.com if you want to see a little bit of what she's done.
It's pretty vintage at this point.
Yeah. I mean, they're older sets, but if you want to see a little bit about like what her actual what her like drafting style is like and stuff like that, if you want to see that, go ahead and check out SeemsGoodMagic.com. Check out the tag Morgan. I've tagged all of the draft videos that she did, and I think you wrote an article for us a long time ago too. So, all right, I think that's it for the podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. See you guys next time.
See you later.
Adios.